Evening, everyone. How are we? Friday night again, some rally chat. I hope you're all well. I hope you've had a good week. So only one guest tonight, which we'll get in a second. So this is new concepts. A few people have asked me, why don't we do one person all night? And certainly the guy who's in tonight can talk for a while. We'll hopefully get under 2 hours tonight for the first time ever, but we'll see how it goes. But the idea is exactly the same, some rally stories right the way through it. So as usual, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and we're live on Twitter. If you're on YouTube or on Facebook, don't be afraid to leave some comments. Actually, just fire some comments in now. Let us know where you're watching from, and we'll get those comments up as we go through the evening. Of course, any questions you have as normal. If you're watching it live, please ask those, and we'll hopefully get round to those as well. If you're watching the recording, I hope you enjoy it. Again, a lot of people do that, which is great. No podcast this week, but I'm working on one which I should have out on Friday coming with Robert Reed, which is be an absolutely clinker, a really good one. All being well, we'll get that sorted and out by Friday if work and everything permits. I'm sort of between jobs a little bit over the next 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm hoping to do a bit more content in the podcast, even just short little snippets as well, which we should be able to get some of those out. Maybe some coaching tips, that type of thing, just to try something a little bit different. And I'm also thinking about a couple of specials. There's a couple of ideas I have for those, which will be going out on a different time. We'll do it via this format, but it might be a recording as opposed to a live show. Again, I'm just thinking out loud with some of those things, and we'll see how all of that plans out. So without further ado, let's get the guest of honour tonight in. 2004 production World Rally Champion driver, Mr. Niall McShea. Hi Niall, how are you?
Good, Trevor, how are you?
I'm really good. What's the crack? Where are you? What part of the world are you in?
I'm in sunny Donegal. That's
Sunny.
where I am.
Letterkenny way, isn't it? Yeah.
Letterkenny, yeah.
Cool. And how's your week been? What are you up to? Like, what are you actually working at physically?
So things are kind of quiet at the minute, Trevor. Top Gear finished the last part of the series, the previous series, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And we're hoping to get back filming again at the end of April. So it's going to be a bit of a quiet period now with that. We've been doing, I did September and October, I did a month in Rome with Mission Impossible, the new Mission Impossible movie. And prior to
Check
that,
you out. That's a long way from Fermanagh, like, isn't it?
a wee bit,
Ah.
a wee bit.
Hanging
A wee
around
bit.
with, who's that, Tom Cruise, is it?
But TC, yes.
Oh, TC. Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay, it's not even Tom, like. You've changed, you have.
I have. Believe me, I have not. But anyway, it is, it's been great, Trevor. The first lockdown was difficult. You know, there was nothing going on. There was no Top Gear. There was nothing else really. So it was quite boring. Lots to do with the kids and things like that. But that was okay.
Uh-huh.
And then the second one actually, because there became some permits and we were allowed to actually start going filming. So that was great. So we're in Malta with Jurassic World, and then Rome, and then we've been a few places around the UK with Top Gear. So
Yeah.
as I said, it's been okay up until 2 weeks ago. So at the minute, I'm just servicing boats for Marshall Clark up at his marina. So
Oh, really? Okay. So let me see the hands then. The proper mechanic's hands.
Top of the thumb are gone anyway, and the fingers aren't great, but anyway.
Fair enough.
It's all good. It's all
So
good.
the boats are in good shape anyway. That's the main thing.
The boats are, they're St. Patrick's Day seems to be the day that everybody wants their boat in, whether the weather's good or not, you know. So sort of heading towards doing things and just generally trying to keep busy, Trevor, you know.
Good man.
Brilliant.
Well, how much time would the filming take up on that side of things, percentage-wise, year, and what were you involved in there?
Well, it depends now. As I was telling you yesterday, I'm trying to think now, Trevor. What movie did I tell you? The one with Harrison Ford in it. What's that called?
Oh, really? Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Raiders of the Lost Ark. So they're going to start shooting that in September.
Is that where you made a chef then?
No, no, I don't have met him, but No, so there's still some stuff to be done with Mission 7 in Leavesden at the studio. So hopefully we'll be back on that. As I say, Top Gear kicks off again at the end of April. And then it just, Trevor, from a point of view of like time-wise, it totally depends on what, what coming up. I did 9 weeks on the trot in China for a movie. Came home, went to Azerbaijan with Grand Tour for 2 weeks, came home for 2 weeks, went back to China for 2 weeks. So, you could be anything from 4 days to, 9 weeks or something like that. Everybody's just returned from Abu Dhabi with Mission Impossible now. So they'll get back to the studio and then hopefully we'll get to finish that off. And yeah, there's lots of movies and stuff, Trevor, that are hanging in the sort of waiting in the sidelines to get kicked off, and then nobody's sure what to do. To be fair, I do admire Tom Cruise for trying to push through this whole thing, and there was lots of problems and lots of issues, and maybe I don't know whether you even heard it a while back. I think it's probably 6 weeks ago about him.
It went a bit viral. It did.
yeah, but yeah, it's one of those things when you're trying to do something, and it's so important to try and keep it right, and keep people safe and stuff, and then continue to work and get it done anyway, so it's a bit strange, but still very enjoyable,
So your mate TC, he seems to want to do a lot of the stunts himself. So why are you even there?
Just for my good looks and stuff.
Clearly.
Yeah, well, he can't drive. He can't drive all the cars whenever when he's driving. So we're doing. It could be anything from an ND car to a police car to one of the action vehicles to a tracking vehicle, anything like that. So it's a whole bunch of stunt people on it, and some specialized drivers. Terry Grant and myself and the other guys.
So your challenge is to get TC, your mate, over to Donegal, see how good he is up in Knockalla. More important down the other side of it.
The other side, yeah.
There you go. Forget about all the insurance and all the usual excuses and the gubbins that they come up with. You'll be able to bat through that. So that's your challenge, okay? Right, let's see who's here, who's in the house tonight. Let's go from the top down. So, Sean, good to go. That's what Fridays are for. Yeah. Hello. Who else have we got? Kevin. Oh, there's loads of people already. Evening all. Hi, Dean. How are you? Co-drivers are in the house. Good evening. Rurik? R-E-R-E-K. I've never seen that name before. Have you seen that one before? No?
Haven't.
Rurik? Looks like it's Derek spelt wrong, but maybe I'm wrong here. Tom, yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. This is going to be great. Hi, Robert. I hope all is well. Muller Brack, Market Hillman nearly. Watching Mahara as usual. Of course, Mr. Bolton's in the house. Matt, evening, couldn't beat the rally drivers from Fermanagh. Yeah, what is it about Fermanagh drivers? What is it about Fermanagh drivers and co-drivers?
Simply the best, Trevor, and it's, I'm sure you'd admit that yourself,
Well, you certainly have a bit of an edge over Armagh, I'll give you that. The Tyrone boys are up there, Donegal, clearly. But there's something about the county, isn't there? I'm not going to list them because I'll clearly leave somebody out. But when you start to think of drivers right at the top level and setting fastest times in the World Championship, and, there's a few of you about there. The three I can think of straight away, you, Ali Fisher, John Armstrong, just to name three. As I say, I'm not going to list any more because I'll clearly leave people out. So what's the secret?
I don't know, Trevor. Is it something to do? I think, Bertie was my big hero whenever I was a kid. There's a cross up in Bow, which is about 7 miles away from where my home place is. And I can remember my dad bringing me. My dad was a farmer. He did not have any interest in rallying, but the road was closed for the Circuit of Ireland, and I remember watching Michelle Mouton and the Quattro on that road, and I'm sure Bertie was on it too. And I was a young kid, but as I grew up, and I have no brothers, so I have two first cousins, Paul and Noel McShea, and they started rallying, and had old cars, and an old 1600 Sport that we took out on a Saturday night, had a bit of fun around the roads. Probably mightn't have been the most legal thing to do, but anyway, we did it anyway. And I think, for me, it was Bertie, and then, then Trevor, it's a bit maybe like the Dunlops from, up where they are, once there's one sort of really high level professional doing it at that level, you can't help but sort of set your sights on that, and then if you do that, then another one comes along, and another comes along, and another, you know, and I think it's something like that, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know, and then obviously the next person was Colin and stuff like that, you know. But I remember going down to Austin Fraser's house for him help me to set up a trip whenever I was co-driving for Paul when I was, well, I better say I was 16, I think, in the Lakeland stages, you know, and like obviously Austin co-drove for Bertie, and you know, they were all my heroes, you know, and I just couldn't believe that they would have time to help you out and do what you needed to do, and give you some advice, you know. And that was probably one of the most impressionable thing, probably very early on, you know, about how the rally community worked, you know, and how much everybody wanted to help.
I was that person as well. I went to the school of Austin Fraser one Saturday afternoon. I drove down in my first ever car. I was clearly just past my test not that long after having my first car, and that was one of the first trips I made. I can visualize it now where the house was overlooking the lake. Yeah. That was great. And he gave me a whole afternoon just talking about things, you know, at that point. So fair play to him. I know Nigel watches, so So hi, David from Trillick. Not that far up the road then. Trillick wouldn't be far, would it? Out of Fermanagh. That's a load of people. Paddy Flanagan's quite local to you then, would he?
He is, yeah. Paddy co-drove for me in the Nissan Micra, so did, and Lorcan would have been, Lorcan and I would have been really good friends at school and stuff, you know. So.
Yeah, but you're not good friends anymore. You've moved on. No, your mate's TC now. Jesus, you don't have time for those boys. Who else we got? Paddy from Monaghan. Hi, Paddy. Robin Luke. Hi, Robin from Scotland. I like the Scotia there. A bit of that. Jimmy, about you, Dean Beckett. Okay, so we're starting to talk to him. Tommy Hayes. Hiya, Tommy Hayes. Tommy Hayes and you did a podcast recently on the Sprint podcast, and it was fascinating for a couple of hours. And a lot of what we're going to talk about will repeat what Tommy got from you during that. It was a real good piece of work. So fair play to you, Tommy, doing that. And we'll explore a few of the topics in a bit more detail that I'm particularly interested in. And maybe we'll chat about stories and some of the events that we were doing at the same time as well now as we go through it. But if you haven't listened to it, get yourselves onto the Sprint podcast, find that episode with Tommy and Niall. And again, it's a couple of hours, a good crack. You enjoyed that, didn't you?
I certainly enjoyed it, you know. That was the first time Tommy had to, thank God, cheers Tommy, you know, he walked me through it like I hadn't a clue what I was doing. So but I really enjoyed it, you know.
Yeah, so you hadn't a clue then. Tommy was organised and structured. Now it's the other way around. I haven't a clue, so you need to be organised and structured for this. So, hello the O'Connells. Any hope of Rally Championships this year? Hopefully COVID will ease off. I hope so too. How's the Stig? As if he was a Stig. Hello Richie Dolan. Hello all the Dolans as well. Up in Maher Nagira Road in Killeator, outside Killeator. Show's brilliant to watch. Keep him going. Thanks, Christopher. Brian, and Al's vast experience at Rally, what would be his best piece of advice for young up-and-coming drivers? Let's kick off. I tell you what, let's hold fire there. We'll come back to that in a second. There's a couple of things that you need to sort out here first before we go, and we'll start into that with the first question a little bit later. So other people are watching. Mark Johnson, hi Mark, and Warren Cooper, another from Manamana, I think he's in Enniskillen. Kat Lund as well, just sent a message earlier. She's convincing people not to watch Question of Sport and actually come and watch this, which I think is a really good idea. So always we try and offer you value. So a little bit of housekeeping here. If I can get this up here, I'm going to give you a top tip. So Paddy Power, the betting site, if I can find it here and share it with you, bear with me, folks. So I find this really interesting today that Paddy Power are offering odds. Might have to come back to this one actually. Here's here now. So Paddy Power are offering odds on the championships. This is the site that we've got here. If I go back in here, I should be able to show you that if I go to A to Z betting and I go to motorsport and I go, you can see here that Paddy Power are offering odds on the World Rally Championship 2020. Now, that's a fair sure bet. If you put your money on Sebastian Ogier to win the 2020 title, I think you're onto a good thing there. And I think even us now, like I had a bet on Elvin Evans last year at 50-1, which I was very excited about right up until that small mistake at the end. So that's the top tip. If you think I don't add value to you folks, there you go. That's not a bad shout, is it? Paddy Power, offering odds on the 2020. Now, bet responsibly, kids, as well. Don't want to go out of that. Right. Also, the video of the week is no doubt one that I think is just awesome. So we're talking about Takamoto Katsuta in the World Rally Car in the Yaris on snow and ice. And snow, there's actually a lot of snow. So testing in Finland this week. And again, hopefully I can share this with a bit of noise. We're going to go on a Chrome tab and we're going to get Katsuta up here. And we're going to watch a bit of it, and then I'm going to get you to talk through how brilliant this is. So if I go up and we'll get it in full screen and we'll get the volume up, and he's on the start line and off we go, Taka.
He's starting in second gear there, Trevor.
I seen that, yeah, I noticed that earlier. It's 110 mile an hour, 115 mile an hour in snow and ice, yeah.
Right. So balanced, so easy.
Just talk us through. You've driven a 2017 car, but let's talk about this first then.
Like, Trevor, for me, you know, the way all those cars are now, you know, especially that Toyota, they're all very, very softly sprung, obviously, in all situations, especially, you know, you kind of look at Monte Carlo and they look almost too soft, but still the traction that they can get now, downforce as well, with the aero packages they've on them. Like, that thing sounds class as well, because it sounds like a Super 1600 or a S2000 only with power.
Yeah.
And but look how easy it is to drive. It just responds immediately, and the balance in it, you know, just seems so great. Like, it's obviously a huge amount of work gone into all the setup and everything, and all the data and everything that they use to.
But at times, it's hard to actually pick out the road, isn't it? At times, that's the thing that I find interesting.
But I always think, Trevor, it is in a video and an in-car lots of times, especially you know, underneath trees and things. It always looks like that, but if you're actually in the car, you can see the road just fine, you know. Yeah, but look at that there. Oh man, class, isn't it?
It's mega, absolutely mega. This.
No, and you see, whenever there's a couple of wee bits where it lifts off the ground, not particularly high, but just look at the way it lands and stuff, you know.
Yeah, let's get the volume up again and have a listen.
You imagine if Ozzy was driving, not knocking Takamoto, but, you know, or Gary Matty himself, actually.
Yeah. Something else in that.
Class. I put myself in, I start thinking about that there, Trevor, and then you go, you know, you get frustrated, and, you know, I know it's all gone, Trevor, but, you know, I still can dream.
What are you now, 46, are you?
7.
Are you? Yeah, of course, New Year's Day is your birthday, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember that story. Yeah, a couple of things about that. So we were talking about trying to find the road. From a co-driver point of view, Dan Barrett isn't the tallest of people anyway, but we know from 2003 onwards, Christian Lorio, of course, being the engineer, wanted to keep the weight as low as possible. And in the Subaru, Robert said to him, like, let's get me as low as you can. Robert Reed, this was in Richard Burns' car when they had that original P2000 car. From a co-driver's point of view, if you sit in the co-driver's seat of one of those cars in that Yaris there, your line of sight is on top of the dashboard, literally, as a co-driver. The only time you'll see out is if you're going downhill, you'll be able to see the other side of the hill going up. Now, there's one place in Sweden, and I'm sure it was 2000 when I did the rally. There was a straight, it was about a quarter of a mile long, and it was like that. It was proper snow banks at the time, so 1.5 meter snow banks. The width of the car plus a little bit more, and there was 4 crests in a row, just not even jumps, not even, you'd hardly feel it, 4 crests in a row. After the 4th one, it was 100 meters square left.
Wow. Okay.
Now,
So
as a co-driver, if I was in the car with you and I called that crest one crest too early, there's a fair chance that I would do that another time and you'd have me out of the car, you'd sack me on the spot. The last thing you'd want to do is brake on a crest where you didn't need to and then have to accelerate again. How frustrating would that be? But the only way you can feel that as a co-driver is through your bum. So yeah. I had a sensitive bum, and all co-drivers have to do that. And it's a really good thing. And one of the other challenges you have as a co-driver, and again, not a lot of people know this, when you get to that level, is not to flinch. Yeah. You get to the end of the stage, Martin Rhodes say, "You flinched." I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "I saw your knee move." I says, "What?" He says, "Yeah, you flinched. Don't do it again." So this is why you'll see co-drivers upside down in the car still reading notes. And it's a hard bloody skill to master, I can tell you. It goes against everything in your body to be able to do that.
Trevor, do you remember Richard putting Robert off the notes a few times with him, like doing all this here, and he would lift his left leg, knee up almost to the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And saying, like, "What are you doing?" And like he would say, "There's rocks on the road," you know. And
yeah.
But Trevor, I am the worst for doing that, you know. See if like there's a bird or something flies across the windscreen. I'm terrible. I do, you know, even when I'm completely zoned in, something like that can still throw me, you know, or a rock on the road. If you catch it in your eyes, you're like, oh, you know. But yeah,
it's incredible.
The co-drivers were always quite far back and down for me, so I never really saw them flinch.
Yeah, you didn't see them. That's why. You're far too focused. That's what it is. But here's the other thing as well, which always blows me away, especially when I was doing stage end reporting for the World Championship between 2015 2017. You get to the end of the stage. I remember it was Chris once, Chris Meek, and he, I can't remember who was in front of him. And I was asking him how the stage go. He said, "I was put off a little bit because I saw somebody's bumper. I think it was Danny Sordo's bumper." So, like, and all of that going on high speed, then to actually see other stuff as well and actually recognize whose bumper it was. It's just this whole thing, you know, the Batak wall where rally drivers are clearly very good at it because of their peripheral vision, all the thing that's going on. And it's an unconscious thing, clearly.
I remember watching Stig in the Skoda Fabia. Or Favorite, Skoda Favorite.
Yeah.
And the Rally G.
96 in the snow.
Or something.
In the snow, the one in the snow.
In the snow.
Yeah,
and they had
96.
They had the camera up here beside his helmet. And forgive me, Trevor, I can't remember the guy, his co-driver, he was reading away at notes. Now, it was a 1600 two-wheel drive car, you know.
Uh-huh.
And he's feeding at gears and he's like throwing gears at it, and then he just sort of looks out the window. And he's sort of looking, and he gives it another gear, and then he looks, and he's sort of looking, and I was wondering, and he was just watching what was going past, like, because there wasn't an awful lot going on.
Yeah.
You do have to have that capacity to have room for other things, but it's not to not allow it to distract you. You know, that's the one thing I could find in a very long stage. You know, if you got a big straight, just to take a breath and make sure that, you know, have a wee look round, or not maybe look at the car, you know, maybe you might want to check a dash or something if you thought you had a problem, but just to be able to step back for a moment and then immediately back into it again. Because that break, I thought, for myself, and I was speaking personally, always sort of worked for me, you know, to try and help me keep concentration.
Might have been Benny Melander who was in the passenger seat of that
Benny
car.
Melander, that's the guy, that's who it was.
Okay.
That's who it was. But I remember thinking, wow, and he genuinely was like, you think he was going for a Sunday drive, and he was flat out down the stage feeding at gears, you know. Funny.
Well, you know, you remember the Production Cup days, and Stig, I've told this story many a time. Stig was our teammate, of course.
Yeah.
And at the end of the recce, rather than go back to the room to do my notes, straight to the bar with Stig, get him a beer, and just sit and listen.
Yeah.
Or a good hour, just sit and listen to the stories. It's incredible. Yeah. What a boy.
Legend.
I'll have to get him on here at some point.
Yeah, we, I think it was the Acropolis. I can't even remember. Maybe 2002 we were doing it.
Yeah, John in the Opal.
No, sorry, it was No, so the crop, well, oh, Trevor, now I'm lost. Maybe it was Cyprus.
Yeah,
Cyprus. And I did it in John Lloyd's. I don't know what they call the version of the Subaru, the two-door Group N car,
yeah,
or version that is.
yeah.
And I was talking to Stig at the start of the stage, and we are just chatting and stuff. And I was trying to milk him for as much information as I could. And I think he said something ridiculous, like the first time I did this rally was in, I don't know, like 73 or something like that. It was before I was born or something. I couldn't
Ye-
believe it. And I was like, what? And I couldn't get it that he had done it that many times. But one of the most important things, or one of the best answers I ever got for a question that you can't imagine what the answer might be, was in when we were in the Puma in the Acropolis, was in 2001, I
Yeah.
think.
Hmm.
And how do I put this tactfully? The Pumas weren't the best
You can
by
say
a
whatever you like. I don't think you're going to get
no,
a drive a Ford going forward. So
no, true. Um, yeah, they were horrendous, and I'd done some testing with it, and it would, I think everything. They were very fragile. So I'd sort of tested it and broke a few things and tested and slowed down and tested again and broke more things and generally just tried to drive around it through. So I got to a point where I thought, right, I know how to I know the speed this thing can sort of take or the abuse it can take, or
hmm
I thought I did. And then the car was built by RED, and it was a really good car. They put an awful lot of, it was probably the best Puma out there. And they put an awful lot of work into getting it as good as they could.
and he's gone. There we go. Ah, you're back again. Cool. So we're at RED still.
Yeah, so basically, the we were doing, I'd sort of figured out, right, I can drive this hard over the rough stuff, and where there was actually a couple of really nice stages, and then I thought, right, in those places, the car actually went fast enough, the engine was good enough, and all of that, and it could handle, but it just would break, and bits would fall off it. So I thought, right, I need to figure out how to try and work out how rough this is going to get before the
Yeah,
start of the wrecking. So I asked Stig, I said, look, I'm really struggling with, everybody says, oh, you need to go easy, you need to be careful, you need to watch the car and all that, but I'm really struggling. I just can't figure out. I think Michael Orr was co-driving at the time, and we figured out we had like a rough 1, 2, and 3.
hmm
Just, like 3 was incredibly rough, 1 was bad.
yeah,
But I said, look, Stig, can't really figure out how to do that. And he says, what you can't understand? And I said, look, I don't know how to work out just how fast I can go on this, or how to work the pace notes. And he says, easy. He says, just drive to what you can see. He says, it will be so rough, you can drive to what you see. And he says, maybe no pace note. And I said, really? And he says, yeah, bad section, just drive what you can see. And then come to a good section, co-driver start here at this bridge, at this tree. And I
yeah,
couldn't believe it, but it made perfect sense.
yeah.
And Trevor, that actually worked for me in that rally right until the bloody end of the rally. And the guys at RED that tried their very best to mount it. There were an awful lot of the engine coils were packing up. So they
Uh-huh.
mounted a coil on a rubber bobbins to give it take the shock load out of it.
Oh
They put a
yeah.
little earth wire onto the chassis, and the bloody chassis, the earth wire broke off. And it took me about 20 minutes to find it, and that was us out of the rally, and we would have been second.
Because
You
the
know,
coil lead looked like it was okay. It was the one
it
behind it
looked
that you
like it
couldn't
was
see.
connected, and it was just sat with a cable tie, but it wasn't there.
Oh, bugger.
And we would have ended up being second, and I mean, like, we were minutes behind. But that every single Puma went out of that rally, like,
Uh-huh.
and I would attribute that back to Stig's thing about drive what you can see, and then obviously on the good sections push as hard as you can. So he's just a legend. And then I got to
Aye.
co-drive for him, just sat in the car with him around the Race of Champions and stuff. And McShea gave me a go in her Quattro, but I asked, Stig brought me around in it first, and he showed me how to drive it, and he showed me, you can drive it, you can steer this much, but then when you steer this much, then it just goes straight. So you must have it completely sideways like this. So, things like that. And he just drove it like he was heading down to the shops,
Aye.
and he was so fast in it.
Yeah, yeah.
He's just a legend, a really, really, big impression on me, just how, excuse me, on how good a driver he was. You know, how little effort he had to put in to drive him
Yeah,
extremely fast.
it's the thing. 2003, sure, that year in Sweden, he blew everybody away in Sweden. He just blitzed them. 57 years of age, and Stig for everybody. So all those years of sitting in quattros and all the cars, the Group B cars, or he's got tinnitus all the time. So he's got this noise in his ear. So he uses headsets everywhere he goes. He never has the headsets off him. But I remember on the recce in Sweden as well, you talk about stories. We came across two Italians buried in a snowbank, like properly buried. And there was a queue of cars in front of us the time we arrived. We were in front of Stig. Stig was behind us. And of course, there's about 10 cars stopped in front of us and a load of boys around this car trying to get it out. So the car was sitting, it had gone like 270 degrees and buried in the snowbank that way. So everybody had the rope on the back of it trying to pull it out. And we're going nowhere, like everybody on it. And Stig comes up and said, no, 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 no. So he got them hooked onto the car and pulled the car back up towards the stage. So in other words, turning it, swiveling it, and it came straight out, just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just things like that. And it's just
I know. It's and he's such a wealth of knowledge, and yeah, there's a perfect example of, you know, everybody thinks they know what to do, but no, we just potter up and tell you something different, and then off you go.
So this is why we're going to be in trouble tonight. So we're not 10 minutes in, and we've gone off in this biggest tangent.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's not. It's good. It's mighty crack. I enjoy it, and I have no apology for it at all because I love it, and I don't care what everybody else thinks. I'm joking. I want to go back to the 2017 car though, because that's how we started this. So you've actually experienced one. You've driven the Hyundai, is that right?
Yeah. So we had the Hyundai at the. We had Hyundai with Andreas and the Elfin.
Andreas Mikkelsen, yeah.
Yeah. We had Elfin in the Ford and Jari Matti in. What was Jari Matti in?
Yaris.
The Yaris, yes.
Yeah.
At the start of one of the stages in the Col de Torini for Top Gear 2 years, 18 I think it was. Yeah, 18.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got to do some stuff with that, you know, because we had the press car for Hyundai, so it wasn't as precious as some of the other cars.
Right. Okay. So it's a 2017 proper car though, yeah.
Yeah.
So thoughts on it then? So just try and describe to people what's different about that car, even over a 2016 World Rally car. Clearly the aero and all the kit on it.
Yeah. Well, for me, the engine is so good on it. That particular car, because it was a press car driver, was actually a 16 car with all the running gear of a 17 car and a 17 engine.
Right. Okay.
Or maybe even an 18 engine, but it was a very, very, you know, you can see on that video of Katsu's car, the engine in them, you know, was so bloody strong. And, you know, I remember hearing Chris, whenever he started to test the Citroen, the step up was just huge, you know. So Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that they're around the 400 plus, like.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
You know.
But it's the torque, really. If you watch them at low speed, I remember watching Super Special in Sardinia, and there's a hairpin, like, and they're going around it and idle and accelerating away, like with no revs whatsoever. The traction and the torque of them is just incredible. I remember that back then.
No, they are, you know, and it's incredible the way that I think they're able to generate so much power and torque from those things, you know, like, you know. Yeah. It's nuts, but that's where they're at. And now you can see, you know, it always sort of unnerves me a wee bit. So Ott's accident in Monte Carlo last year, for me, you know, that was, now who am I to say, but in my humble opinion, it's one of those situations where I felt that car was probably that wee bit too low. You know, you can have it so soft as you need it. And yes, of course, you know, there's gains to be made to having it low, you know, but then whenever you take so many cuts, like you cut the left-hander and the car shot across the road because there was no, you know, it was the sump guard that pushed it across the road, you know, and you can see that in a few of the cars, you know, but the Toyota seems to be very, very easily, very well balanced in the change of direction. It just seems to be incredible. You know, you can change it from a full throttle slide on a left-hander to just literally just change the direction of it like that, you know.
Yeah.
Ford's also very good, you know, but I think they just need Ogier or somebody back in it, you know.
And everything looks a bit progressive as well. So nice and progressive, no vices with it, no snap.
No, like they're incredible, you know, the front end. Like, Skoda's S2000 chassis was very, very well balanced and very good. It's just an S2000 car has zero power. You know, it's just literally you wind it up and try and keep it there. But when you get it there, you know, same thing. You can sort of, you know, you can turn the car in. It'll turn in with a great front end, and the car start to rotate in the middle whenever, you know, if you commit to turning on in with it. And that's what they've worked on all of that. Obviously, then you've got a much better engine and aero to keep it on the ground. So they can afford, you know, they need to get all that power down. So that's, I believe, why they run the car so soft. But
yeah, and the Hyundai traditionally is front end anyway. It's more gear doors front, so the balance is towards the front of that as regards drive. So it's the car's going to pull you rather than push you.
Yeah, but you know, if you watch Ott's driving technique, you know, he's very aggressive, you know, and he really does like to put it in sort of, certainly with some yaw on it, like so. But that's you know, he's an amazing driver to watch, and so is, you know, if you look back and say, right, watch Sebastian Loeb in Monte Carlo 16 and see, you know, the way he drove that car, you know, and there are a lot of people struggling to drive that car the way he drove it, and that's just, you know, the way he drove it, very much on the front end, you know, up, brake and turn, wait and then accelerate, where, you know, Ogier's style is very much, you know, up, brake, turn and accelerate through the whole, you know, with a pitch on the car. And Jari Mario, Scandinavian drivers all drive like that, you know.
Yeah.
I think, you know, that's where Ott's like super aggressive, but like so fast whenever it's working out for him, you know.
Well, yeah, when he's on a mission, like nobody can get near him, like.
No, yeah.
But, and we saw that in the Toyota, especially some of the rallies in that Argentina. I remember, just nuts. Okay, he'll be back there. Like, he just hasn't got into this Hyundai the way he should do. Estonia last year, of course, you expect him to win there. It's a fast rally, but he'll come back at it this year. He'll be on fire.
He will.
Right, let's get back to Ronan's question then. So we'll get there, don't worry. So with your vast experience of the rallying world, what would be the best piece of advice for young and up-and-coming drivers? So this could take half an hour, but we'll limit it. So what do you reckon?
So, Trevor, I think, right, you know, for me, whenever I began, all I wanted to do was go rallying. That's all I wanted to do. I bought the Ryan with a loan out of the Incredible Union. I was working as an electrician, an apprentice electrician. I didn't have a road car. I bought that car. I had to borrow money from the credit union and my sister to buy it. My cousin Paul gave me his transit van to go and pick it up, and he needed it back immediately. As soon as I went and picked up the car, I dumped it off the trailer. Sorry, I know I'm going off on one, but I'm just trying to do things. But, you know, and then I didn't have money to put petrol in the Ryan when I had it. So, you know, for me, all I wanted to do was go rallying, you know, and I did think about it. You know, I thought, right, well, if this all goes terribly, terribly wrong, at least I've got a good job. I'm earning good money. I can pay the money back. But, you know, I want to do it and I don't want to do anything else. So I'm going to do it, and that's it. And whether that was, you know, at that time, I remember there was I was asked quite a few questions by some people, but I didn't care. I wanted to do it. So for a young person, whenever they want to, you know, they have to decide what they want from it, you know. Rallying's absolutely brilliant sport. You know, it's changed my life. I've had so many brilliant experiences with it. But whenever I had that Orion, you know, Trevor, I never thought I was going to be any good. Like, or I didn't think I could make it anywhere with it. I didn't have the money that you really needed and all that. Mm-hmm. Took it out. It broke a few times. Thankfully, I never crashed it. But it was a very fast car, so I could get some results out of it. Mm-hmm. So then a friend of mine said, you know, Stephen Whitford and Mark Fisher had been doing the Nissan Micros in '96, and I think Mark did it in '95 and '6, did he? I think. Yeah, and Stevie definitely did it in '96. Yeah. And then he was saying, "Oh, you could do it and you could beat those boys." And I was like, "You don't be ridiculous. You know, that's cost a load of money, and there's no way I would be as good as those guys." And like Wavy is a fantastic driver, like an extremely natural driver. And mm-hmm. Mark was very, very determined, and Jerry McGarty, you know, helping him to sort it all out and do it correctly. You know, so I thought, again, it was that decision of, what do I do here? You know, do you do it? And if you do it, you have to go full on and full in and fully committed to it. So I did. And James Tollerton, the guy from up near McGabry. I can't remember the name of the town, but James Tollerton was extremely kind to me. He allowed me to buy the kit and parts whenever I could afford to buy the bits off him, and then work on the car and buy more bits and work on the car. So I eventually got that micro pit together. But again, all I wanted to do was go rallying again, you know. And it's that thing of, right, I want to go, but I still didn't think I would be able to manage to do any good, but I wanted to do it, you know, no matter what, I wanted to do it, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, you know, Trevor, not everybody, well, if you want to do it and you don't actually need to fully believe that you can go to the top with it, but somebody has to get to the top. You know, somebody has to do it. It's like lots of different things, you know.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't start, you know, the big journey begins with the first step, and you take it, and then you take a next one. And it's really strange. Whenever I look back now, Trevor, the amount of fortuitous things that just sort of fell into place. You know, the Roger Albert Clark allowed me to start the junior championship, but I knew I would never be able to find the money to, you know, I knew it was only going to just start it. But I had some offers from the BRC to do the whole year, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go to the World Championship, and that was just going to get me started on it, and it was only going to pay for 2 rounds in a Puma, with an awful lot of help from Pete Lickler, who had bought RED. So you know, again, it was sort of, I don't know whether it was the most sensible decision, but I wanted to do it, and I was going to do it, and that was it. But then that led to something else. So you sort of have to. I think you have to be very, very clear in your mind about what you want to do and how much you're going to put into it. And I think if you put absolutely everything into it, you know, if you want to try and see, can you do it? You have to put everything into it. And if you put everything into it, then you can't have any regrets if it works or if it doesn't. I've things and I've done in the past, and I thought, in hindsight, maybe I should have done that a bit differently. But then I know I got an awful lot of things, Trevor, by trying harder than somebody else, you know. Mm-hmm. And then when that gets ingrained in your brain, you know, of how, right, I'm just going to put more work into this, I'm going to try harder, I'm going to put more effort into it, I'm going to work on the car more, whatever it is, you know, whatever it takes, then you'll get a result for that. And then when you get a result for it, that's the payment for it. And then, you know, I remember Burnsy, Liz Linford doing a bit of stuff with Liz, and Liz saying that Richard was always looking for anything he could find, you know, anything, any wee thing, because that wee thing was going to make a difference. And that's all you need, is a bit of a difference. Yeah. You know, and that's true from the missing micros to the, you know, World Rally Cars. Like. So
it's the same thing. It's the same thing comes out. Lizzie Linford's been on as a guest in the podcast. Not only Lizzie, so we had John McLean, we had Martin Rowe, we had Neil Weirden, with me, with you. Everybody has been to see Lizzie Linford, because she was just one of those people, right, let's get outside the box, let's think a little bit differently about it, and then you're going to do something about it. You're actually going to take action. That was a big thing with Lizzie. She made you go and try it. And at the time, I always remember Muhammad Ali never won every fight. Roger Federer doesn't win every tennis match. They're the ultimate, they're the best. Tiger Woods, when he was on form, never won every tournament when he was playing golf. So you're going to lose. But the point is, if you can learn from the losing, and also learn from when you win, this is again where people fall down. They don't actually do a debrief on the winner rally and pick all the things that went well. So all the things that went well, brilliant, let's do more of that. Yeah. But we need to know what we did well. So we need to learn that. And, you know, the alternative to that is win the rally, go have a champagne, a couple of beers, and next minute you're on the flight, next morning with a headache. And you don't do that debrief. So there's lots of things like that. And I think where you come into your own was when you got a little bit more self-confidence, you just never let go. Is this just find a solution? There's got to be a solution here somewhere. And I'm going to pester you. In the same way, I remember one of the most famous ones is Jason Plato haranguing Frank Williams to get the touring car drive for Renault, like literally camping outside his door and buttonholing him when he went into the office. Now, there's a balance between being a pest like that, but you know, I'm sure there's plenty of stories that you can tell me.
And I know that I was a pest a few times. Now, I couldn't tell you, did it do any harm? I don't know, but you know, I certainly was a pest to a few people.
So here's the thing for me. The 2 Sebs that have won all of those titles all started off with nothing. They needed help. They were right at the bottom level of it. And Maybe at the start they didn't have the self-confidence. I don't think Ogier had in particular, but they started to build it up. They started to see it could go faster. They started to get noticed, and people started to help him. And then
Yeah.
there were a couple of people with money that were the people who actually joined in. And Ogier's story is very similar to some of the times that you do. He got a load of people, like 25 people at one stage, invested in his career. And
Yeah.
if you're sat at home at 17, 18 years of age, like we were, I remember, do you remember when we first met?
You've told me, but I cannot remember. I
You
can't.
can't remember. So
No.
it was Lurgan Park, the week before Lurgan Park, and I think it was Nigel Scouse. Was run a program, community radio in Cookstown, and I had to go there just to do a bit of an interview prior to Lurgan Park and the run up to the rally. And you were there. I don't know what age you were, why you ended up there, but that was the start, you know, and there was
Trevor,
something there.
can I stop? Was Patrick Snyers doing the rally at that time?
He might have been. I don't know what particular
Right.
year it was.
Well, Dean Hetherington got me to come along and literally wash wheels for him, and he had borrowed Jan van der Marel's car and Moss Tiles Cassidy. What's Cassidy? Oh,
Sean Cassidy.
Sean Cassidy sponsored him to come
Martina,
over to
yeah.
do that rally. And
Right.
would it have been that?
It might have been that anyway. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But from there, then you're in the Orion and all the other things. So again, the pieces of advice that, you know, in really simple terms, like 1 or 2 bullet points, what should people do?
I think what's most important is determination.
Yeah.
I've seen guys like Yevgeny Novikov and a few other guys, you know, all the money in the world and lacked. Francois Duval was a perfect example. All the money in the world, really quite talented, and just weren't determined enough, weren't that bothered. You know, yeah, it's good, let's go and do it. It's got a bit difficult and hasn't been going well, so I'm not really, you know, not going to put the effort in that I think it might, you know, that they were willing before. So you know, Thierry Neuville, whenever he was with Ford, they watched the DVD of the recce and went through the notes, like, you know, sometimes until the ridiculous hours of the morning. And then same thing, you know, if you put that effort in, he was getting results out of it. So he believed, right, that's it. That's the secret. That's what's making the difference. So he went with it again, and it worked again for him. So it's the determination, and everybody's going to crash cars, and you're going to have things break, and sometimes they'll be your fault, and sometimes they won't be your fault. And it's how you manage the failures as well as the highs, you know.
Yeah.
Because they're both kind of the same, you know, a high, you know, a failure and a win, you know, yeah, the win's obviously much better, but you'll learn a lot from breaking the car, crashing the car, or not maybe being fast enough by something that maybe you're doing, you know, and then it's about learning how to do something, change the way that you're doing it to make it better, and maybe make it safer, make it faster, maybe make it easier on the car, make it easier on the tires, all those things, you know. I used to, whenever I started to left foot brake, I was terrible at it, but I knew that I had to continue with it, and Robbie had given me quite a few lessons on it and stuff, and he did help a lot, and he helped a lot with how to make pace notes and things like that, you know. And you know, yeah, picking things up off other people, you know. So, but I think the first thing is a dogged determination, Trevor.
Right. Okay. Robbie Head teaching how to left foot brake. Again, even something as simple as that. How did that happen?
Just talking about, I was doing a launch at the south of France with Nissan, and Robbie was there, and Mark Higgins was there, and it was about, you know, just talking about stuff, and you know, he started to tell me how to do it, and then Mark would butt in and he'd say, no, like, if you're doing it correctly, the co-driver shouldn't even know that, you know, the co-driver shouldn't even know that you're doing it right and everything. And you know, I was literally killing the engine with the brake, and you know, I thought that's how you do it, and it's not. And you know, it was trying to find that finesse, you know. But you know, I learned so many things from those guys. You only learn from people that are better from you, you know, Trevor. You'll not learn from somebody that's worse than you, you know, or can't do as good as you.
Yeah, but they're not going to come look on you.
No,
you have
absolutely
to go to them.
not. And you have to drag it out of them sometimes. And as well, you've got to be careful. Neil Bates, lovely guy, funny guy. He's an Australian champion quite a few times. And the first time I went to the Race of Champions, I was I was doing my own thing, asking, but all the top guys weren't in the RAV4s, so they weren't in them. So we had to qualify in the RAV4s, and Niall just sold me a dummy on how to do something in the car, and he fucking hammered me, and I was like, logged. And the next year, then the next year I think, the next year was really good. I think don't know, can't actually remember.
Okay.
But one of those things, you have to be careful who you ask for advice as well.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. So we definitely, attitude's a big thing. Taking action, and it's not just about spinning the wheel and pressing the pedals, because there's so many other skills that you need. Personal skills, how to meet people, how to communicate with people, how to put yourself in their shoes, understand what's in it for them before you start asking them what they can do for you. You need to figure out what you can do for them. And again, just remember when people help you to go back and thank them, and
Absolutely.
all those types of things that a lot of young people, simply because they're young, have no experience of it. I was like that as well. But these are the things that you learn with a bit of experience, and they stand you in good stead. But it's not just about spinning the wheel, pressing the pedals and being good at that. That's a brilliant start. But there's so many other skills, so much other knowledge, and of course the attitude are the three things that go with that.
Yeah.
Okay, we could talk about it for another half hour, as I say, but we're already an hour in. You see that? Nearly
Wow,
an
no
hour
way.
in. 51 minutes. Right, Drew Hull. Hiya, Drew. Hope all is well. Even guys, keep up the good work. Fantastic way. Thanks for that. Oh, nice excuse. We were talking about this earlier. Being a fellow Derry man, I remember being with you at Sonny's. And we talked about rallying. I told Plum to watch out for you on the Lincoln stage. He always said you would be a star. Proud to have you as a friend. Would you agree that the Boho stage is the best tarmac stage in the world?
It's the one he's talking about that McShea drove.
All right, okay.
Yeah, of course it is, Nigel. Of course it is.
There you go. Hi, Cynthia. Good to see you again. Willie Nolan's here. Evening, lads. Another one of the Sprint podcast boys. There's Mark Johnson from Fermanagh. Cheers, Mark and Laura, making up all those furies all over the country. Hi, Gavin. Good to see you as well. So the two of you together. I think you texting in separate rooms, or what's going on there? Good evening, both. Looking forward to this. Hi, Thomas. How are you? Don't be easy on Trev. That's John McLean. Why would you ever be hard on me? What's wrong with you? Hi, John Skinner, the Isle of Man. I hope that's the same one anyway. Looking forward from here, Martin near Duns, to find out how many shafts the Saxo hit in 2000. Yeah, the Saxo wasn't your best friend when it came to reliability and finishing rallies. So let's just talk about that then. So you did have your fair share of non-finishes. I would say the average is about 50%. And he's gone. Well, he'll come back in a minute. He was just sitting there. That's it. If you start to challenge him, he just disappears. I've got these drivers nailed now. Let's come back and we'll fire in a few more comments. I'll come back and we'll ask him. All Irish rally drivers and co-drivers are a special breed. We like to think so. What part of Letterkenny is Niall? Not Sonny. You get the boat he's working on down here, yeah. Hi, Noreen. James says, hi, Dad. We'll tell him that when he comes back in, Noreen. Hi lads, love the show. Good to have you here, Sean. Regs are out for Donegal International next week. Good news, John. So we just need to get Niall to get TC in. So the regs are out for Donegal next weekend. So
Are they really?
That's important, yeah. So your mate TC, we need to get on the case to get him over. James says, hi, Dad. I just thought I'd let you know that. So you don't have to say hello to James.
Hi, James.
Cool.
And Aaron.
Yeah. Good morning from New Zealand. What's the crack? Tony Green. That's a Chinaman. Well, he's not a Chinaman. He's a man you know from China.
He's in New Zealand. Tony started the FACCA team with Paul Gao in China with John McLean.
There you go.
Yeah.
So how did you get to drive in China first time? Was that through Joe McLean then, who's just been slagging me off?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so it was John and Alan McGuinness, I think, actually. Yeah. Alan, this was a lovely one for you. I'm totally getting off that for a moment, but in 2007, I hadn't done anything for a bit. I did GB in 2005 and again in 6, and then Alan McGuinness rang me up one day and said, "Oh, do you want to do the production world championship again?" And I was like, "Yeah, Alan, of course I do, but I have no money and all that." And he says, "Well, look, we have a list of drivers here, and basically we've rang everybody, and they're all busy. So somebody scratched your name at the bottom. Do you want to do it?" And in typical Alan
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
but so I think it was between John McLean and Alan that I ended up. So yeah, I'm trying to think. So Tony and them used an N12B, or maybe I think they had two of them. And then the next year they bought like 3 N14s from ProDrive, and John was in charge of it. And it was a really well-funded, it was by far the best team in China. And yeah, so that was the start of it. And yeah, we did a few events out there. It was very difficult. Like Trevor, I have to say, has to be the most embarrassing. Like I've made some mistakes. 2002, on the first stage of Monte Carlo, 6 kilometers in, I put the Corsa, had the full lock on it around a slow corner, and it hit the bank. Didn't think it would hit it that hard, but it broke the suspension out of the rally. And there was one car that was before there was Super Rally, so that was embarrassing. But China, we were at a rally and it was incredibly humid, and like even the local drivers were struggling. But Marshall and I were lying second, I think.
This is Mark Clark who's co-driving you.
Yeah, Marshall Clark, and we were lying second to David Higgins or something, and Mark was there with Nicky Grist, and I don't think Alistair was there, but there was a bunch of good drivers. And I think if we'd have finished second or third the first day, and then something similar the second day, the team would have won the championship. But on the last service, coming into service, now we'd been drinking water, we'd stayed very hydrated, but to the point, Trevor, where we just hadn't balanced our salt intake as well as the water,
Sure.
And Marshall and I were extremely sick, and he was going in and out of consciousness. So that was kind of scary. So they took the two of us to hospital, and then Mark and Nicky arrived in for drips as well, and then a few local drivers. But that was probably my most embarrassing situation, where I felt that I could have, I don't know, and I was fit then, Trevor, but it was just one of those things. I just was not used to the humidity and the heat.
And again, it's just understanding how much you have to drink. I remember trying to get water into Higgy in 2005 in Cyprus was always a challenge, and I was going through 13 litres of fluid, like a full Camelback every time. 13 litres of fluid a day I was definitely drinking, and I got used to it because I used to drink warm water. I made myself drink warm water and get used to that. So when it's in the Camelback at 37 degrees, like the first time I went to Cyprus, I think in the 206 World Rally car, it was in the middle of summer, and it was like with 63 degrees Celsius in the car, with 3-layer overalls, underwear, helmet, and the average speed is 60 kilometers an hour, 36 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So no wind, and you're up in the Troodos Mountains, and a load of dust and crap. I remember that 2003, we get to the end of the stage, the long one, it's 30 kilometers, but it took you 30 minutes or something ridiculous like that. And Martin used to, because of the dust and all the crap, he used to be sick, so again, trying to get fluid into these guys is a challenge.
Trevor, I can remember Martin getting out at the end of stages and dumping water, stripping off the overall, dumping water over himself.
Yeah.
And Bobby Willis, whenever Marshall and I used to go out to the Middle East to do gravel notes for him and Abdullah Bakishab, I remember him giving me a tip, and he said, pull your suit to about there, and just don't panic at the end of the stage. Whenever the heat soak starts to come into the car, don't panic, and don't start chucking water over yourself. Whatever you do, don't start chucking water over yourself.
Creates steam. It gets worse then.
Yeah, and then he says your temperature goes up and down if you can just sort of stay a bit more consistent. And that was, another really good tip, But I can remember that. And an Evo 6, Trevor it wasn't homologated with a roof vent. And I remember me and Chris Patterson, oh man, it was so hard in Cyprus. And you're sort of like feeding the steering wheel through your hands, trying not to lose time and trying not to overexert yourself. And literally, you were panting like a dog. Like, yeah.
Do you remember the job? I'm sure Bobby told me this story once. He got you over in the Middle East to do a job in a Toyota Corolla. Do you remember this one?
Yes. Oh man, my lovely friend Bobby. He was so
Yeah,
kind.
yeah.
Yeah, I give him some abuse anyway, because he deserves it. He deserves all the abuse. And then some more. But anyway, so I'd been out there for quite a few weeks, and we replicated the Portuguese super special stage for the first ever rally in Jeddah,
Mm-hmm.
and it was ran at night, and then I was there helping put make the track and everything, and it's great fun. And then whenever it was all done, the night of the race, then I had to bring a lot of people around in one of the WRC Corollas from I can't remember.
Grafoni?
No,
All right.
the guy from the Czech Republic.
Okay.
But I don't know. Bobby had been over anyway, and I told him very nicely to move away in a way that not just quietly like that, quiet
Yeah.
as nice as that. Anyway, so he came over and he just reached in and he says, "Oh, you've got that round the wrong way," and he pulled one of the levers, and I didn't know what he was doing, and off I went. Oh, Trevor, I was half passing out, and I was drinking water, and I was pouring it down my neck, and then do a couple of laps of a super special stage, and I was sweltered. And he comes in, and then he just come over and he says, "Now, you little bollocks, maybe you'll turn the heater off and not give me any more shit." So he pulled the heater on, and oh man, yeah, but loving the bits. He's a great fella.
It's mad, the temperatures over there. I remember Martin Rowe and I did a job in Kuwait, and on the car, when we did a changeover, so we were launching a car, it was 55 degrees in the entire thermometer. It's the only hotel I've ever been to. It was an SAS hotel in Kuwait. The only hotel I've ever been to where they refrigerate the swimming pool. They cool the swimming pool down.
Wow.
Anyway, so I've no idea how we got on to talking about that.
Be rambling again.
Oh,
Sorry.
Tony. Yeah, we're talking about Tony and the fact, we'll get back to China a little bit later. Who else have we got here then? Martin Mees, hi Trevor. Now I remember watching Niall slay those tarmac exchanges in the Saxo late 90s, yeah, and Cork 20 is probably the first time. County down drivers, yeah. Bottle walking, yeah. Now you're talking county down drivers, but you can never beat Phil Collins when it comes to bottle walking. I remember trying to do that in the very first round of the Motor News Tarmac Championship in the Metropole Hotel in Clondalkin, Wales.
Right.
New Year's Day, must have been 1981, and it was that good a night. I think I slept on the pool table, or definitely under it at one point anyway. Right. Dale Mosca, hi Dale, I hope the recovery's going well. Dale come off his mountain bike recently. Yeah. Always a good listen, good crack to hear Niall's voice and stories. Some cheeky get said that we needed 2 interpreters for tonight at one point, but I think we're doing okay.
That?
I can imagine, yeah. The Rob Wilson one was good. You should listen to that, Niall. I think you'd enjoy that. Talking about the physics of rally cars is great. And he also is one of Mark Knopfler's best mates, and he told some brilliant stories about that. Yeah. So Dave, hello, Ireland's World Rally Champions. Yeah,
hi, Dave.
There we go. Dave Relford. Yeah, doing a great job as always with the Richard Burns fan page. And a good interview with Robert Reid there as well. How's you, Richie? Tony's just got the bug now. Lockerbie, another first class show. Have you got the Orion? Have you still got the Orion?
So, Paul, I sold the Orion,
mm-hmm.
and it went round a bunch of people and got into a very dilapidated state. My cousin Paul bought it back. I did it all up. Noreen and I did a few events in it, and like airfields and a few things, and tried to do the Donegal rally, I think, in it maybe. Broke the prop shop. And Paul has just recently sold it to Barry Meek. So Barry will have it.
Oh yes, I saw that. Barry's got it. That's right. Okay, this is great. All young people, Dominic, well done. All young people should be introduced to rallying. They'll never have money for drugs.
That's
Not
it.
money for anything. Hi Philip. Yeah, I don't know what it's mental. Livering's mental. Watching from Canada, class bit of driving. Okay, we're talking about Takamoto there. Somebody recognising Tony. Thanks, Derek. Great show. Benny Melander. Yeah, you're a bit late there, Tommy. Great mate, and yourself. Okay. Stig was leading the field in the car race at Goodwood only last year. Did you see that? It was stunning. So, world sports car champions, British touring car champions, Stig blew them all the way again in a racetrack in an old car.
Yeah.
Something else. Yeah, I don't like Ryan Champion. He's slagging off Pumas. He's just got one, I think, anyway. Sean Tracy, yeah, the roads are so bad. Hi, Sean. Hope all's well with you. Red wine, Mac. No, okay. Art McCarrick. I had a 10-minute phone call with Art today, over a duration of an hour and 15 minutes. And Niall's up there with the very best rally talents in this island. Remember a good night drinking them? Could never have been you. Rally School Ireland Christmas party. What's his thoughts on the lack of affordable one make series around the moment? Everyone in Niall's era seemed to start, or at least very prove themselves in one make series. Okay, and we've done this with Weavy. We've done it a couple of times now. So thoughts on that, just quickly.
Like the R3, R2 now, Trevor, it looks like they're going to try and slow those down by weighing them down, because the performance between those and the R3 is actually very little.
Mm-hmm.
So they're on about weighing the R2 down, but the R2, like, Trevor, to start off and be RC in it is still a damned expensive amount of money. It's a lot of money, but it's the car's good. It's a proper. I've been doing some tuition with David Kelly and his car, and they are a proper little car. They're a great basis to start off in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think wherever you can get something like that. I don't know of anything else, Trevor, that's actually.
How much are they though?
No, they're 120 grand.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
That's before you start buying the kits, I would say as well, yeah.
I know it's nuts, but I just don't understand it nowadays. Like, but Trevor, look at the price of old WRC cars now. So they're worth 3 times what they were in the day. But that's the way it is.
Yeah, you've clearly got something on John McElroy. So he's being very complimentary, which is great. This is the man who tried to kill me on a saxo, one of the Asquith saxos. The road car one
over the jump.
Yes, long cross. Break. Were you there?
I was there.
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
Did John decide to break in the air? Did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, break. I just got confused with the pedals, clearly. If I can get that photograph up before the end of this show, I'm definitely showing it. And he's doing a podcast now.
Facebook thing,
I know. He's doing a podcast now with Vicky Butler Henderson, and I need to get on to Vicky just to get him briefed about that. Yeah, so I can't remember. Richard Asquith was stood at that jump on his face. Like, so the car is like, and those who are old enough to remember the Michelin cartoon cars with the wheels just splay out like that, that's what the car looked like. And there's 100 meters and then square right.
Yeah.
Anyway, stretched my neck real good, he did. I'll never get over that. Right, but he's a very good chap anyway. We like John.
Yes, John's great.
Any version of the We Are the Champions tonight? Yeah, that's been sung a few times. Now I'll be keen to come and compete in the Mull Rally at some point. There you go. There's an invitation. That to me sounds like an all-inclusive deal. So you need to get on with it. Don't lose that.
I'm not even that fussy which WRC car they end up getting.
What start money would you need though? That's the question. Who else have we got? Where's Iran now? We've answered that one. Best rally shows I've seen so far. I love them all. Great stuff. Thanks, David. It's very nice of you to say. Twice. So well done. What tuning gear had the Iran? Engine box, brakes, axles. Interesting first rally car. Let's quickly talk about that because that car went on. I was talking to Cathal Curley recently about Barry McGuigan driving that car originally as well and Fermanagh in the Lakeland stages, didn't he?
He did, and I was stood in Big Dog watching him. And he was utterly pathetic in it, but all I wanted to do was go, and he was just sort of tickling at it, but fine. So Birdie, whenever Sydney built it, they had everything was Manta 400, so it was Manta 400 engine, gearbox and axle, front suspension. Then whenever Stephen Finlay bought it, they put a 420R Hart engine in it, but it took an awful lot of half shafts. It would just break half shafts and stuff. Then that was taken out of it, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he put a 2.4 Nelson engine in it, and that was really good. And then Robbie McGurk used to look after the car for him. Robbie won the you know, loads of people have driven that car and used it. Like, oh God, I can't think of everybody, but like there was so many people used it. Yeah, Robbie won won the Bushwhacker in it and stuff. Then James Gillen had it, and then I bought it off James Gillen, and it went round a whole load of people after that, and now it's back at Mix again.
Yeah, isn't it good?
Hmm.
Back at Barry Meek. Right. Remember Niall, hi Sean, as a young chap of about 13, 14 years working on Paul Noel's Mark 1. So you were keen then, clearly.
Yeah, that was it. It was like EIA 666, and
Okay.
Noel bought it, and then Paul crashed it, and well, Noel and Paul bought it, but then Paul crashed it in Sligo, and then we reshelled it into another one. Like, but that's, you know, their father, my uncle Mick. That's where I would have learned an awful lot of mechanicking as well, you know. So that's where, yeah, just loved working on cars.
And also the Sparky bit as well came from one of your cousins, didn't it? Your
Yeah,
reason.
Paul. Yeah, Paul's an
Yeah.
electrician. Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
been out wiring houses from when I was like 12, so I knew I could do it. So, and you got paid well for it, so that'll do. Some way of
Good
finding
man.
money to go rallying.
But it wasn't just the wiring side of things at home. When you started to do the rally stuff, and I know you lived with Ascus for a while, you lived near Widnes, Pete, and there's lots of wiring and stuff went on then, wasn't there? There's lots of
Yeah,
electrician skills, not necessarily in rally cars.
true. Yeah,
And who else? Ollie Donovan. You did a
yeah,
fair bit of work with him
yeah.
over the years as well.
I
Okay,
did
cool.
indeed. Yeah, I did.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all good in the Dolan household. It's good to know. Cat Lund saying hello to Barbara. Any advice on getting budget? Okay, that's a good one. Eamon, I'm going to do a little bit in that 6 week period. I'm going to look at this. I feel that there's stuff that I can add and my experience over the years that might contribute to that. What's your advice on getting budget at now?
Trevor, don't ask me that.
Beg,
It's
steal, and
one of those
borrow.
things. I was terrible at, like, I was never confident at the start, like you said, Trevor, and I wasn't, you know, and that was it. And then, you know, as you get on and things go better, you know, maybe you get a bit better at it. From my point of view, you know, I just felt that a good attitude, you know, John Lloyd totally changed my life.
Hmm.
I met him um, at the Roger Albert Clark Award. It was Jim Holder who introduced me to him, and I think, you know, John was you know, he loved rallying. He really, really loved it, and he wanted to secretly make a difference, you know, and he supported an awful lot of drivers quietly, a bit
He
like
did.
John
Yep.
Coyne does now, you know. And yeah, you know, so from that point of view, I used to struggle to get hundreds of pounds put together, but you know, I at times I was able to manage it. You know, Ivan Fisher helped me. Look, you know, if you look back at 2004, Trevor, I think there was 35 drivers that helped me, and before that there was many more. You know, um, there was just Brian Murphy that co-drove for Austin McHale. You know, Brian helped me do. I wouldn't have been able to do Germany that year only for Brian. You know, so,
Sure.
and they didn't take, you know, they didn't make anything of it, Trevor. You know, they just did it
Yeah.
quietly.
Of
So that
course.
was really, really great. But to how you actually go out there, you would have so much more experience in how to try and do that. I was always terrible at it, Trevor.
Yeah. And I think that you quoted a couple of people there, John Coyne, you're talking about. Of course, John Lloyd. And these are guys who are rally enthusiasts, motorsport enthusiasts, don't necessarily need to understand rallying, but if they've got an interest in motorsport, and these are high net worth individuals, and a lot of the time the taxman gets the money, so it's much better to put it into a project. And there's ways of doing that, of course. The interesting thing you're saying, it's difficult to get the hundreds and the thousands of pounds for clubmen rallying. Absolutely right. You know, to try and get a grand or a couple of grand off your local business is a challenge sometimes. Just trying to work out, well, what's in it for those people. You know, John Lyons, who watched the show last week, again, somebody who's really good at being able to put themselves in the other person's shoes and try and work out what problem can I solve for this person? What can I do? And the downtown radio sponsorship, which was huge at the time, to give you an idea, has just come front of mind to me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just being able to understand what the needs were for that particular organisation, how rallying could help it. that's where you got to start. You got to think of it from that person's point of view, not what you need.
Yeah.
And that's the key to it. But I remember, like, Angus and I, when we started Slipstream Sports Management, and at a serviced office, we walked down King Street in Hammersmith, found a serviced office building, walked in. What's your cheapest office? 500 quid a month, 2 desks, internet, 2 telephones. In we went September 2000, and that was it. Started the phone. We thought London's going to be the place where the money is, and we put a few quid in each just to be able to pay for the initial part of it. Yeah. And I remember going to Mark Higgins' stag do in Hull the day after we announced that we'd got the money, £1 million in the bank, around Easter time anyway, and that was it. Off we went rallying. But we could easily have got 10 million at the time.
Yeah.
Easily got 10 million. Clearly, you had to pay it back, and it was easier to get 10 million than it was $1 million at that point. And it's just the maddest thing. But I didn't know how to do it, but I knew plenty of people who did know how to do it. And of course, Angus Watt was one who, we owe him a huge amount and on a top look. Right. Okay. Watch this space as regards that, Eamon. I'll try and do something on it. So Roy Dempster, top snapper. Evening, Trev. Great show as always. Great to see Niall on the show. It's Niall an experience of full. Did you ever get a run in a proper F2 car?
No. The first run I ever got was Mark Higgins in the sunny with him driving just before the Ulster in '97.
Yeah. And
then I never drove in. I think I drove a Golf in Finland one time just on a test, and an Almera kit car, here in Ireland. But no, never drove a 2-litre, one of the F2 cars,
Would you have liked to?
Whenever you guys were, Trevor, yes, I absolutely would have. Because the BRC back then was just better than any national championship in the world. There was the World Championship, and then there was the BRC with all the F2 cars. And you remember, driving that Nissan, the Group A Nissan Micra in '98 into the service park, and you guys all heading out, and I was green. I was just, oh man, I so wanted to, I didn't want to kick anybody out of a car. I just wanted one of my own, And
yeah,
that there, and there was obviously, the Seats were great. They were really, really fast. Obviously, Gwenda was very fast. The Astra was eventually fast. The RS2000, was great. It was just, obviously Mark could make that Nissan fly as well. It was a great time, wasn't it? It
was mighty crap. Yeah, it was some fun. Yeah, and we got paid well to do it as well, which is unusual. Here we go. Willie John Dillon, seek advice from the right people and take heed too. Yeah, definitely listen to what people tell you. Not only listen, go back and told them, go back. If somebody gives you advice, take it on board, do something with it. Go back and tell them that you've done it and what you've achieved because of that, and they'll soon tell you what else you need to do. That's the key with that. Just keep it going. And people love to give you advice, as I've preached on here many a time. Hello, America. Oh, God, we're worldwide. That's brilliant.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul. Good to have you on board. Right, okay. That's one for you then.
The Super 1600 car had more torque.
Uh-huh.
And as well, then they went to the sequential gearbox with bigger drive shafts, so it was just definitely a better car, But the noise of the kit car engine was class. It was so... I remember Helen and I taking the very first Saxo kit car, that R200 Sax, the one that they'd built for...
This is Helen Ascott, yeah.
Yeah, taking it down the road from... and I was driving that 106 Cup car, Peugeot Cup car, and, you drive it like it's a bit, like all the rest of them, and then we took that Saxo down the road just for a spin, And I was, oh man, Trevor, that was just the hair was just standing on the back of my neck and my arms, so... Yeah,
I remember going to an event. It must have been a PR event where we put that in the back of the trailer. Helen drove the van, of course.
Yeah.
I can't remember where we went with that one, but it was a PR day, really. Hi, Andrew. At registration's clearly something that means something to you.
Yeah, I think Andrew had that car then, I think,
Right, okay.
Or maybe still has it, maybe even still has it, I don't know.
Good. Hi, Andrew. Hope all is well. Long time no see. So the all-night dash to get a spare engine for the Saxo Lurgan Park 2000, what was that about?
So Mark Fisher had got the Peugeot 106 Maxi for Lurgan Park. Mm-hmm. John was co-driving for me in the Saxo, and we went to Nuts Corner to test it, and it broke a camshaft and wrecked the head. So that was about maybe lunchtime on Friday.
Okay.
So I got a flight back over to Heathrow, drove down, took the head of a spare engine in Asquith's workshop, wrapped it up, put it in a bag. Didn't make it back to get the flight back in time, so I had to drive on up and get a boat. Got the boat over from, I don't know whether it was Liverpool or I don't know, but I drove the whole night up. Got into Lurgan Park that morning very early, and Richard put the head on the car and had it running about an hour before the start of the event. And I thought, it's going to be a really good fight with Mark, but he sort of let the ball fall a wee bit. He spun on the first stage, and then we let us away. We were away then. It was kind of easy. So, but yeah, one of those things that, and I would have thought nothing of doing that.
Yeah.
And then when you look back now, Trevor, I'm thinking, would I do that again? Then I would have. Now I'm like, I don't know.
Well, you do it for Asquith.
Yes,
I do anything for Asquith.
Exactly, of course.
You might not have seen Richard or the family recently. Richard was on, did a podcast with us. He is in good form. So again, if you want to listen to just one of the best people and one of the best families in motorsport that never got the credit for the number of superstars that they helped. I remember seeing you there when I went down and working away on your own car, living with them, doing anything you could just to get out in that car. Yeah. But again, John, Helen, Richard and John, just absolutely brilliant.
Beautiful people and great. They put so much into British motorsport, and Jari Matti Lagvala,
the list of them. Mikko Hirvonen.
Yeah, exactly. Like the 1600 the 1600 Clio, the black one that Chris used a few times here in Ireland. I built that in Asquith just to do some work. So built that in Asquith for Mikko to do Finland in it. And stuff like that there, and Helen we'd get not in an argument, but a discussion who was going to take Jari Matti out driving on the road so he could get his license, because he was just this mad young cub, and like the right-hand side of the road, the grass on the right-hand side of the road is where he would have had his right-hand wheel, no matter whether there was a white line down the middle of the road or not, so we always had fun with that stuff, but good.
Because he did a lot with Penty in the early days, as Richard was mentioning, some crack, like, wasn't it, those guys in particular.
It seems like 3 lifetimes ago, Trevor, but then it also seems like a flash,
Yeah, well, it's 21 years ago for you.
Yeah, it's nuts. I just don't know, Trevor. So we did a thing in Cyprus last year with Top Gear, and I can remember, and it was 18 years prior to that I was on those stages, and I can remember driving those stages, but I couldn't get over the fact in my head that it was 18 years. I just did not know where 18 years had went.
Crazy.
And I could remember the roads and the access roads and everything, those same stages that they wanted to use, Mad.
Yep. Seamus McGettigan reckons he's at a false alarm. Now, that could be anything, knowing Seamus, unless that means something to you, does it?
Means nothing to me.
Okay. All these sometimes subtle comments that might mean... Oh, Dave Whittock.
Dave.
Hi, Dave. Dave was our team manager when we competed in 2003 championship. Of course, team manager for Nissan in the days. The micro challenge, you had buckets of it. Well, nice with it. So he's paying you a compliment there. Yes. The car that they gave you in 1998, though, wasn't just the best car, was it?
It was a challenge car with a good engine and gearbox in it, but it couldn't sort of. Yeah, like Trevor, I was probably a bit hard on it too. So this was a question I was pointing at when you disappeared the last time. Then, so the 50% record of finishing. If you look in your EWRC, it's across everything as well. It's funny you were talking about that. You were talking about Al McGuinness. He just celebrated 25 years of ProDrive. Not that long ago. So I hadn't been to the new building, and I was driving past it, and I phoned David Lapworth up and said, listen, I'm going past, I'll stop in for a cup of coffee. Went in, met Lappy, had a coffee, and said, come down and see the boys. Walked in the door, and the first thing Tomo said,
42% record or whatever it was in the World Championships. That was the first thing. Richard Thompson
Really?
being the engineer. That's the Nissan thing. So Tomo clearly was at Nissan, or clearly to us anyway. He was at Nissan in the early days, the kit car when we first met him. And of course, he was in China, I suppose, with the golf and all of that. But just funny, funny guys.
Yeah, great guys. And David was so good to me, obviously it was all kept, that it was very, very fair, in the Nissan Maker Challenge. But like Dave knew that I had no money, and I lost the bill for a couple of gearbox rebuilds and stuff, and he never really followed me up for them, So Dave was very good to me, and he yeah, it's one of those things, he was he was really easy, lovely guy, very easy and very knowledgeable and very, very helpful. And that's exactly what all us young fellas needed at that time, was a real good, safe, steady pair of hands to sort of guide us, And he was crack as well.
Yeah, Dave Whitaker will be on here one Friday night in the not too distant future as well, because that guy can tell stories. And his genes have clearly passed on to Ross as well. So a top co-driver.
Indeed, yeah.
Cool. Fergal O'Rourke. Hi, Fergal. So the Saxo and Cork 20 that year just caused that created a hell of a storm, didn't it? The noise of it more than anything.
It was a class car. It broke down a lot. Silly things like wires and anti-rotation bars on the engine. They would snap on it. They just the homologation didn't allow for them to be any stronger and stuff like that. But when it was going, Trevor, it was really good fun. I just think that maybe back then, there was very few, there was Esker Cosworth and Group A cars and stuff like that, but there wasn't any, sort of F2 cars or anything. So it maybe looked a bit different or something like that,
Yeah. So there's a balance between budget. When you're trying to get a rally program together, you want clearly to be in the best team with the best car. You think Super 1600 days and Saxo PH Sport, that's where you needed to be. And that was twice the price of everything else, at least, if not more. So clearly some of these reliability issues are simply because of the budget that you had to use not the best parts, not being able to replace it. We're talking about 2003 and the team that we had and the setup we had versus even what you had with Niall Allport. So there's a bit of that, but is there a bit, you've mentioned it a few times in interviews and things that I've seen, that sometimes you maybe were too hard on the car. Is that a fair reflection?
I suppose it is, Trevor. You never, like in that, I remember in the Ulster Rally in the Group A Micra, every service we put two front drive shafts in it. They were both, they were standard drive shafts. And Taff, who was running the car for me, said, getting towards the end of the rally, we were starting to run out of them. And I said, I don't care, we have to put them in because we broke shafts and then the car stops, that's it. And then the last service, I think he took out the shafts and one of them the cage was broken on the CV joint. So the engine and the gearbox and the car could handle it, could go fast enough, but there was a weak link in it. And, I suppose I remember Fred Gallagher saying that him and Henry Toivonen could have achieved way, way more if he'd have just come back 2 or 3%,
Yeah.
And maybe, Trevor, maybe that, I'm not comparing myself obviously to Henry Toivonen, but what I'm saying,
I get it.
Maybe in that, I broke it a few times, maybe just not realizing like the Puma and stuff. I had to realize because it was just breaking. So I was like, right, well, all I'm going to do here is do half a stage or 2 stages and that'll be it. So I have to get it in my head. It'll only go over this amount of rough stuff at this speed and you've got to manage it. Now, if you can, the object of the game is not to do that. Obviously, you have to get it to the end, but, to try and have cars that are, the best that they can be. In 2003, we had the cars with Niall and John had bought me 2 Evo 6s and they were good. They were really good cars. They were actually David Sutton's recce cars for maybe Stig and
Martin.
And you guys,
Martin the year before,
yeah. So they were good cars, and Niall maintained them really well. But with things like I'll not say gearboxes and stuff in them, and I had gearbox issues. I pulled the sump guard off it in Argentina by going over a jump too hard. I broke a drive shaft in Germany. by again over a jump too hard. You know, there are times, yeah, when I messed up and broke it. Probably if it had been a bit easier on, we wouldn't. But then back then, Trevor, I was just trying to go as fast as I could.
Of
You
course,
know,
yeah. Well, we've seen that with lots of people do that, and of course, it was good to watch. You're always good to watch. You're all spectacular, even the Saxo, days like that. And Martin Brady, who's over in America at the Snowdrift Rally at the minute. Um, we'll never forget Niall and the Saxo Super 1600 in Cork, 20, mesmerising. Yeah, and that's the talk. There's a lot of that. Simply because the noise, everything with it, but the commitment and the way you drove it. Like you drove it from steering from the rear and all that type of thing.
yeah, it was a fun car. It was cool.
Richard Hogg reckon he's a bit of a co-driver now, so fair play, good skills. Hopefully Ulster on top on that one. Now Fiona just showed me the Blake Vez you got for us for our wedding present. Keep up the good work. There you go. You good band wedding presents as well. Hi Jenny, good to have you here. Barry McGuigan, he did rally the Orion. He also rallied Sierra Cosworth. You remember that? Sapphire, the Ulster rally one year. I think it might have been John Joannides or somebody who got ran. He went off in front of me, took the front bumper off it. So right. I took it back to him in the service and handed it to him. He said, "Are you watching there, boy?" Yeah. So hi Niall. Was now think of how the American series come on since the last time he stood in the podium in New England. Okay, so there's.
Yeah.
Do you keep an eye on that still?
I do. Like, Marshall put up a post there the other day. So I ended up going out in 2005, I think, to Vermont Sports Car to Landsmith to help Travis and Ken set up their cars and do a bit of work with them and stuff like that. And then we ended up going to another rally, which was Maine, the New England Forest Rally. And I went and watched it and tried to help a wee bit, with just helping set the cars and a bit of stuff like that. And then there's a bunch of guys that wanted to help me. They wanted to go out and try and beat Travis and Ken,
Yeah.
And Martin Donnelly and Jerry Coffey, and there was loads of guys. Enda McCormick. They put together a fortune of money, and I ended up using Martin's car. And Martin put a new engine in it and everything. And Marshall and I went out, and we did. We had a good weekend, and we won the rally. And then we've made so many good friends from Atlanta and Lestage. And Marshall got a chance to co-drive for Travis, and he spent a year with Dave Mira and all that. Just out of that one weekend, and it was quite close. I'd had a lot of talks with Lance about whenever Subaru America got re-involved again, whenever David ended up going back out there, but I was in China at that point, and was sort of, I didn't know which would have been better, because obviously Subaru America invested a huge amount in it, and obviously Lance did a great job, and David obviously did an amazing job. So I think David's stats in America are brilliant. Yeah. But that obviously Subaru America have decided to step back a bit, but it still lacks another manufacturer there. It's a pity that Mitsubishi and a few others didn't get more heavily involved, because it's a great series, great, hugely enthusiastic out there, for rallying, real great rally community,
Mm-hmm.
But the Irish guys make up such a big amount of that, There'd be no rallies if there was no Irish guys out there.
Yeah. Cool. Right, there's this comment I want to read out to you as well, if I can just find it here. Trevor, I'm a massive fan of Niall McShea, and I think he is one of the fastest drivers ever to come out of Ireland. Unfortunately, he's not recognised as such because he didn't win Irish Internationals. Proper Group N driver. That is probably from one of my hero drivers, one of the biggest heroes I ever had in Irish rallying, John C. Lyons. If you look over my shoulder there, you'll see a photograph of him that he sent me the other day.
Very much, John.
John is, he's resistant, but he'll definitely be on this show one night as well. I need about 20 Friday nights in a month now to get through all these people that I want to get on.
Great, Travis.
But the stories that man can tell are fantastic. Well, right, one other then, because the reason I'm doing this, folks, over the last couple of weeks, we've been flat out and I haven't had a chance to get your comments, your questions, so that's why I'm doing it tonight. We could go for the 3 hour mark here tonight now, but it'll be good fun, won't it? So I haven't really got into your career that much yet. Story. So Gethin Jones from Welsh Wales. Does Niall still get his bum out to moon passing rally cars if he breaks down? He did it to me on the 99 Rally Great Britain. He was in the Saxo, me the Deu. Okay. Couple of things here quite disturbing. First and foremost, how did he recognise it was your bum? Now,
Right.
I've worked with Gethin Jones for the best part of 11 years now, and there's absolutely no way he would recognise my bum. So how did he recognise yours?
Right. Well, as it, because he's from Wales, he's well used to looking at furry bums. So that's the first part of it, and he was in a day where so he would have all the time in the world as he slowly passed by where we were. So,
Well, in fairness, to get this comment across and tell the world that you rallied a Deu.
yeah, he should have just stopped at the end of Saxo there, shouldn't he?
I think he should have really. Yeah, shouldn't he?
Hope you're doing good, Gethin.
He is, yeah, he's in good form. I spoke to him earlier in the week. Right, okay. So let's take it back to more of a chronological flow to this and try and work out where you went. So you did the Iran, we've been through the Nissan, the Micra, have moved into, where'd you go after that then?
Group A Micra, and then after
Group A
that,
Micra.
yeah, and then after that it was the Ascos built the 106 for the 106 Cup.
Yeah,
And
then the
I
Saxo.
I can't remember about the 106, but then the Saxo, and then the Saxo again the start of the next year, and then there was the Rod.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Rod Robert Clark.
right.
Or
So
the
let's go
Ford
back.
Oh no, sorry, there was the Ford Motor News thing first, Trevor, at the end of '97.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's forgotten
Yeah.
about a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, and then that was my first time ever in a World Rally Car with Ewa Kankinen in the Repsol Escort. So we went to Rovaniemi up to before Sweden, and that was just that was an amazing experience. Like you can imagine, driving around. We were driving a Ford Kaz around Silverstone Rally Sprint Track,
Uh-huh.
and then he brought us a spin round in the WRC car, and then
Mhm.
the next time then was in Rovaniemi, after he'd been up and down the road about 30 times with Repo, and he was like, I'll try and tell you this quickly. I know we're getting on with time, but he said, "Okay, boy, get in car now, and I give you watch, and you do this, and when I say stop, you press the button on the watch." And I said,
I-
okay.
Who's this talking?
This Kankinen.
Oh, I
And this
didn't know he was South African. Fair enough. Go on.
Anyway, in his best Finnish accent.
Yeah.
So off we go, and the thing had 5 million lights on the front of it, and we're doing 455 mile an hour down the first straight, and I see the first corner, and I nearly soiled myself. I was like, we're off, and down and bang and off the bank and pulling gears, and that was it. And obviously this is December time, so it's pitch black. And we're flying along, and then it's like, we're off again. No, oh my God, this is going to be a big crash. No, right in the corner. Off we go, keep going. And get to the very end, and he's flat out in sixth gear. And he goes, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Yeah." And he went, "Okay." And then I went click like that there on the watch, and he went, and then go, "Now." There's about 2.5 seconds difference between I hit the watch and when he put his hand down. And I was so scared, I was breaking it. And he was like, "What time, boy? What time?" And I'm trying to add on about 2.5 seconds onto the time, but I added it onto the tenths. And he said, "I knew it was good time. I knew it was good time." So I had to write that down and all this bullshit. But it was one of the most. Can you imagine driving? The fastest thing you'd been in was a car, or maybe not a car or something like that. But going from that to that was just utterly amazing. So that was
But it's not only that. I've never known Ewa Kankinen to be so aggressive. So you clearly wind him up. He's never like that. The thing that people don't understand is when you go to Sweden and you go to the test, or you go to the shakedown, you struggle actually to get to the car, don't you? Walking over the ice or the snow to get into the car, you struggle to stand up to get to the car. You get into the car, and sometimes if the driver's been down the road with the engineer, it might not be his first time down it, and you get in the passenger seat. Clearly it was with Kankinen.
Yeah.
So in the snow, in the dark, and it's just your muscle memory has no recollection of this. It just doesn't have any understanding. Even if you did the rally a year before, I can't remember that. And the way I liken it to is if you've ever been on an escalator, you know, the one downstairs, or even one in the airport, and you're moving along, and you know if it's stopped, you go to take the big step, you know, and you try not to do the big step, and you actually do it. That's what it's like to be in a rally car on studs and snow and ice when you're not used to it, because it's just this head fog, and your brain doesn't know what's happening, because all the visuals, all the things that you recognize, which is part of your memory, it's completely wrong. And your head actually spins. It does spin. It takes, it's the maddest thing ever. It takes a couple of runs just before you settle, even as a co-driver is used to all of that. So there's a bit of that probably going on there as well.
John, I was supposed to get to drive the car then, and Malcolm had eventually agreed, because I was best. Like, I knew all the lads at M Sport, you know, and I'd been nipping away at them, and like, can I ask him, can I drive it? You know, let me drive it, please let me drive it. I won't crash it, I promise you I won't crash it, just let me drive it a wee bit. So eventually, after the first night, then Bruno Theory was taking over the driving the next day, and he freaking crashed the car, Trevor. So that was it. The car, I couldn't get to drive it. Oh man, I was like, I was so upset. Like, I thought, oh man, like, I thought that was my only opportunity I was going to get, you know. But yeah, good time. Oh, sorry. So that was 97.
So with the Orion, which this is the car we're talking about, which you sent me. Then we're into the Saxo. So I think this was the Pirelli Rally, was it? Might have been the Pirelli in 2000. I think it was. And then Scottish 2000 as well. Jim Clark. These photographs, thanks. What else we got? Saxo, that looks like Jim Clark as well. Yeah. Jim Clark again. Yeah, not that keen on this one. This is Ramsey 2000 Manx, where our car's just down the road there, where it spat its guts out after half a mile and lost us the British Championship. So don't like that one. But those photographs were brilliant. Thanks. Martin Cullen sent those through, I think. So yeah, just talk us through the Saxo then before we move on to the Opel.
Yeah, so like, so then with the Roger Albert Clark Award, I'd got £50,000 once we won that to do whatever the proposal was, and my proposal was I wanted to start the junior WRC. So Pete Littler had just bought RAD, and ended up doing the first rally, which I think was Catalonia, was it? Catalonia in the Puma. Yeah. In the test car.
Just before you go there, I want to just play you something. So the Roger Albert Clark Award, which was announced at the Rally Ball, I think would have been, So let me see if I can tee this up, because this is quite cool actually. Rapid Rich Studley at his best. What a character he is. So we're going to go to Chrome tab, and we're going to do that, and we're going to share the video and the noise. Sorry folks, it just takes a little bit longer to tee these things up. Right, we should be able to see that, and we'll make it full screen, and we're going to play this with a bit of volume. Penny Mallory, I think, at the start of it.
And welcome to the first ever Roger Clark Award.
He wasn't just one of the best drivers, he was a fantastic friend and a fantastic person. And at the end of the day, I think we have to give a round of applause to Goo and the boys for getting us into this position to promoting a young and up-and-coming driver. Thank you very much.
If we really are serious about finding some future champions, another champion to follow footsteps of Roger Clark, Colin McRae and Richard Burns, we need to make a commitment to encourage and nurture that talent to another level.
And the winner is Niall McShea.
Struggling to keep it together there, Trevor.
So am I now.
what you quickly could have done for me. There is one cash on it in the bingo. All he turns was she's crazy crinkle. As he buzzed up, he does head laughing. And Miranda blows his body in the sea. We must say adios until we see Maria once again.
And more hair then too.
Yeah, you definitely kept your promise though. You done the award and you done Roger Clark justice. You can't get much better than win the World Championship, really, can you?
Yeah, Trevor, I still always have that thing where I felt I got very, very close to getting a WRC car, So that will always be a wee bit of a sharp sting from something that an unfinished business, or not that it's unfinished business, but I always wanted to make it to that level, obviously, but I did yes, I was extremely lucky, to have got to where I come from, got to do what I got to do, and got the result, that anybody would have wanted in a Group N car, So I always feel incredibly grateful for that, because the amount of help I got was huge, amount of help from family and friends and strangers and just random people, and obviously, like I said, Richard and Jan, Helen and John Asquith, John Lloyd, the amount of people that have helped me is just, the list's endless.
Yeah, you're going to leave somebody out if you keep going.
I am sorry, and anybody that has helped me, they will know that, and I don't mean to leave anybody out, because the list is absolutely huge, so that's why I always feel incredibly grateful to have got to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting to drive cars because of that, and I get to do some really cool stuff, it's just, I feel very lucky, extremely lucky,
There's a reason why those people wanted to help you, of course. You have to remember that as well. And, it worked. It clearly worked. And, no different to me. We could have went one stage higher and achieved that works team. Maybe who knows what happened. But I have no regrets. I'm not looking back and saying...
Yeah, I don't suppose, Trevor, no. I hope it doesn't sound like a regret what I said there. It doesn't.
No.
Not a regret. It's just would have loved to have done it. And that, there's one I shot on that Roger Albert Clark Award thing where the Corollas got up the bank. Yeah. That wasn't me. And actually, I beat Loban, I knocked him out of it, and he wasn't one bit happy about it, but it was class. And, back then, whenever I was competing against him, Trevor, I felt that I was every bit as good as him.
You were?
Clearly, he kept moving forward and forward and forward and had the support, and that's what you need, and that was great. And I'm delighted for him because he was an unbelievable talent in the end,
Let's talk about the relationship you had with Seb and Daniel, of course. Two proper characters, and we were quite lucky. 2001, we were in the Peugeot 206 World Rally car. They were run behind us. They were Junior World Championships, so I got to know both of them back then as well. And clearly they're in the start of their career, and I don't think they're much different now. They're still the same people as we met back then. So yeah, just talk us through.
Daniel certainly is still the same person he always was.
No, he's twice the person he was back then.
Yeah, he is literally twice the person.
Still smoking probably twice as much as well.
Yeah. I don't know, whenever we started the junior championship in where was it? In Catalunya? Yeah, Catalunya.
Yeah, Catalunya is the first one, yeah.
There was a bunch of people there, and everybody was looking at each other, sizing each other up and everything. And, I knew the Saxo was very, very good and was damn strong and all of that. I knew the Puma was actually quite fast on tarmac, but again, it had brake problems and different issues, and there was a bunch of Pumas out there. The Fiat wasn't particularly that good, but there were some good drivers, and Andrea Della Villa and that, so in the few stages we did get to do in Catalonia, our times were okay, but then, I think it was, I can't even remember what happened in Catalonia. Was it engine? Oh, it was the engine. Everybody's engine. So the engines were, everybody got a new engine before the start of the rally, and the thrust washers were ineffective or something happened to them, and everybody's engine, basically the thrust washer wore away and the crank pulley went out of line, and then the engine stopped in all of them apart from Chris Burbeck's. So What was I going on about? Sorry, I'm rambling.
Your relationship with Seb. So Acropolis
yeah.
we talked about. Finland is the one for me. You think about Finland and
Yeah.
the pace in Finland was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but again, Trevor, I'd swapped then from the Puma to the Saxo,
That's
and the
right,
Saxo was really, really good. And Willie Lux ran a really good team, and the car was the best it could be. And I'd done like a good test and everything beforehand, So from my point of view, I thought, right, this is it now. We've got what we need to go and do it. And Trevor, that was, I went slightly wide on a right-hander, and I broke the CV joint on it. We went just off the road, probably 18 inches onto the grass, and there was either a log or a bit of a hole in it, and it was no big thing. It came out onto the road again, but it had broken the CV joint because I had my foot buried in the throttle, and that was it over. But yeah, the times were good up until that. But another missed opportunity. But hey.
But in your head that you on stages when everything was working, you were as good as Seb Lowe that year.
Yeah.
And remember, he was in the best car and the best team.
Yeah. He did. I think he did 23 international rallies that year, and we started 6th and finished 3. And I remember talking to him about different things, and he'd done just so much driving in the Zara kit car and the WRC car and all of it, and in the Saxo, and but you could tell, Trevor, it's one of those things. That's where, whenever I was with Asquith, I wanted to do more. I needed more experience, and that's where Jerry McGarty would say, when a young driver needs to be driving all the time, like you can't be out of the car any longer than for a young driver a week.
Affordable seat time. That's what it's all about.
Yes, that's it exactly. So that's where I got an awful lot of that with Asquith. Yeah. Where then in the junior WRC, like it wasn't like that at all. There wasn't near enough seat time in it. And then you had to sort of get up to speed, but not be left behind at the start. So yeah, but I had a couple of good nights out with Daniel and Seb, and you would have the crack, and there was no way I felt that he was going to walk off into the sunset like he did, because I would always warn him, if he made any mistake, or I would be right there, I was going to beat him, or I was going to take a load of time off him on a super special stage, or in GB in the fog, we took a bunch of time out of him in Morgan Park on the really fast stuff on the fog, Trevor, and that was, I don't know if my notes were very hard for co-drivers to read, but I could make use of them. And I always remember Richard and Robert taking a minute out of Colin, 2 times.
Radner,
yeah. And I felt I could use that, so then, it went where it went. And then, but Seb's obviously, he's turned out to be such an exceptional talent, and you see Ogier and all those guys, but they're all like Chris and all those guys, Craig Breen. The difference between, the guy who's 5th and the guy who's 1st, it's not much. Like Trevor, It's really not. It's just where I think maybe Ogier and Tanak, they have a slight edge on the others, maybe, and if it goes their way, but like Colin and Chris, if it goes their way, they're probably going to be faster, and if it doesn't, then it won't,
There was something that Seb told you towards the end of the year when he was no longer clearly worried about as a competitor. A tip that he passed on to you, which I think is really interesting, which you then passed on to Chris later on, Chris Meek.
Yeah, so 2002 and at the end of 2001, then he, I'd said about, I'd said the way he drives is boring and stuff like that, and I was just ribbing at him and stuff, and he says, yes, but it's faster, and I was like, but it looks like shit, and have you no pride in yourself at all? You're not driving the car the way it should be driven and all this. But he said, I'm always looking for the traction, always. And we'd had a few beers, and Seb was not forthcoming with anything, but we'd had a few beers, and he said that to me because he was on his way at that point. And I said, really? And he says, yeah. He said, I prefer always to find the traction, always look where the traction is. Look, I find the traction, and I'm careful with the throttle, and I do that. I prefer this than take the 6th gear corner maximum. I prefer this. And I said, really? And they said, yeah. And we were in the Corsa in 2002, and Chris and Guy were in the Pumas. God love them. But they were almost every stage they were exactly the same, like they're exactly the same as each other, but everybody who'd been there in the juniors,
This is on Rally GB, yeah.
Yeah, it was probably genuinely about 6 seconds faster than them, but they were right together. And he came up and he says, "Oh, I don't know why. I just don't know why we just cannot do what the same times,
This is Chris asking you.
Yeah, and I said, "I know exactly what it is." And he says, "What?" And I says, "I know exactly what it is." And then I went back. Michael called me up to the car, and I said, "Look, whenever you want to know, come and ask me." So he came up, and he said, "What is it?" And I said, "The last particular stage, I can't remember the name of it, Trevor, but you come down one side of the valley, turned 90 right, and went up a huge long hill, kilometre long hill."
Yeah.
And I said, "That hill, what gear did you go up that hill?" And he says, "Flat out in 6th gear." And I says, "Yeah, but you're spinning the whole way up that, you're spinning the whole way up that hill. Like it's a big long road and it's a hill and you're spinning the whole way up." And I said, "I was going up that in 4th gear, and I think nearly at the top I got it in 5th gear." And he stood, looking at me, and I says, "I'm telling you, try to get the grip, try to work for some more grip." And the next stage, he was 3 seconds quicker than us. And he's got to the end of it, and he told me that he told Glenn, "I've really effed this up." And then he could see the time, and then he realised that was just because, two-wheel drive cars, if they've got a bit of go in them, you need to work the traction. If they don't have any go in them, you have to drive the life out of them. Four-wheel drive cars, it's less important, but still very important. Where that was, it's obviously.
But it's the one thing. It's the one thing you don't know about. The traction side of things is the one element that you can't factor in. So you could have a perfectly balanced car. You've got what you think's a tractable car, but you don't know how much time you're losing with wheel spin. Yeah. That's the one area that you don't know, and it could be along those lines where you're losing all your time. But that's not an area that people look for.
No, and Trevor, looking back now, whenever I think about it back in the Saxo and stuff like that. And generally, Justin Dale was faster than us in the 106.
Yeah.
They were on Michelin and we were on Dunlops and things like that, and you could maybe factor some of that in. But looking back, I think, I could have worked harder. It clicked a bit late with me, or it actually maybe even took Loeb to say that to me.
Of course.
I was thereabouts, but whenever I got that, then I was able to move forward another little bit,
Uh-huh.
And then looking back, maybe I should have worked harder on that. It's just the key elements, and it's learning from somebody who's better than you, at the end of the day.
Yeah. And again, that information now for young kids watching this is just invaluable. If they understand what we're talking about here, and it's the laws of physics, there's nothing complicated about it. But just thinking about that and thinking about what we're talking about. So a tire does 3 things. It accelerates, it corners, and it brakes. And again, it's not the first time I saw Gwyndolf Evans in shiny tar in the Ulster braking and moving off it. Even approaching a junction and him moving off to the left where nobody else was, simply because he looked on the Rekka, he knew where the grip was, he knew where to position the car, and that's a different mindset.
Absolutely. Freddie Loix spoke to Chris about that in Ypres whenever they were in the 207. Just on where everybody's braking on that point. By all means, brake at that point, but move over.
Yeah.
So you get yourself something better. Like Trevor, sometimes there's more grip in the ditch, than there is on the road.
Of course.
So it's having to know when that case is like.
Of course. Cool. Right, so then you moved to the Corsa in 2002 with our old mates Ray Malik.
Yeah.
So Ray Malik, clearly a race team, very successful race team. Vauxhall got them Opel got them initially to create the Astra, which Jarmo Kittoletto used. We were his teammate then, Mark, and then they decided to go Super 1600. So you got Wojtka, you got Robert Kubel, those guys from Opel then. And it seemed like a good idea to go effectively a factory team, or certainly a works-backed team.
Yeah. The car was, Mark had done quite a bit of testing in it. RML are a really good team. Ray's an absolute gentleman. Robert Kubel, gentleman. Volker Strejček is Volker Strejček. And...
He's got different opinions. Let's call it.
Yes, different opinions, but that's okay. That's all right. He's the boss. He can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was quite disappointed in that car at the start, Trevor. There's a few things on it, basically kingpin adapters and stuff on it, and I couldn't believe that they looked like something off a touring car, and I said they'll never work. And I'm trying to think of, there was an engineer.
You'd Cyprus and Acropolis that year, and of course their background doing the British Championship, they had no real understanding of how rough those rallies were. In fairness to them.
Yeah, there's an engineer, Robert something, but he was sort of more engine than ears. He just didn't really want to hear anything that could have been wrong with the car. And then Andy Thorburn, remember Andy? So I pushed really hard for Andy to join the team, and he did.
So Andy was one of the guys behind the Renault Megane that the guys were using the British Championship. Yeah,
an absolute brilliant engineer, lovely guy, very just knew his job. And whatever point in RML, he was able to make, the timing was just right for him to be able to make some changes, and I'm trying to think of other people in RML, but there was such a really great bunch of people, and I learned a lot about how those teams worked at that level.
I think that's probably the key learning that you got from that year, was understanding how that type of setup was, because to that point you hadn't really been with a team that had that level, I suppose, of experience. I'm talking about as a team and as a professional team, and clearly, they knew what they were doing in racing, and they learnt a lot about rallying with the Vauxhall side of things, and of course then going into Super 1600 was brand new, and so I'm just conscious that we need to move on to the Production Cup. So 2003.
Yes, no, absolutely. So it was a great year, but at the end of the year in Rally GB, Andy had made that car really great, and then Chris had it for 2003 in the BRC, and it was a damn good car then,
Yeah.
So 2003 we did the Production Championship, and like we'd said there, John had bought me two of David Sutton's recce cars, and Niall Allport ran them very, very well, and with some success. I think we had some success. I think we won Group N in Corsica, I think.
Mm-hmm. You did, yeah.
Yeah.
You won the PWRC. Mark won Group N, the RED Subaru, with a little Mike Gibson beside him.
Oh, very good. There we are. Very good.
There we go.
Yeah, and as I say, we were doing really well in Argentina, but the second last stage, I took the sump car off it over a jump, just to Ortega. Germany, we were leading, and we broke a drive shaft or the gearbox, can't remember.
Yeah. Cyprus it broke as well.
Cyprus, we broke the gearbox.
Yeah.
But the car, Evo 6s were great, because they would go, we were like the Group A Micra, they would go very fast, but they would probably break if you didn't drive them at a lesser pace, where that's one thing, Trevor, you remember the Subaru was just so damn reliable.
Yeah, but it was reliable because of the budget that we had. We had a fantastic sponsor in Anna Gunny, who was co-driving Stig in the year. On our budget for that, so we had everybody involved. David Sutton cars were running the team, of course, with Pro Drive's involvement. Dave Campion was at every rally, with Ernie doing the coordination, Ernie Waldron, with Dave managing the whole lot, with a massive big motorhome, and Georgie Campion was in that, and at every service in the rough rallies they were firing bits at the car. It was it was that, and we knew our strategy at the start of the year was very clear. We needed to finish every rally, and if we could finish in the podium, that was great. And we knew we were going to have a reliable car for a Group N car, and we just needed to consistently rack up the points. That was our strategy from the start of the year. It wasn't hard to work out.
Yeah, and Trevor, I learned so much from you guys that year. I can remember.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I remember thinking the next year, so in 2000, at the end of 2003, Toshi Arai was getting his own team from STI, and Sims, Ujima Industries, was a subsidiary of STI. They made pressed parts for the factory for STI, and Sims was the motorsport wing of that they had, and they had huge resources, but whatever happened, I think they didn't meet a target or something with work, with the connection between Ujima and STI. Yeah. And they were given an instruction not to compete in the PWRC in 2004. And I had already agreed everything, and then John Lloyd had agreed to help Alistair that year, because I didn't need any help again. And in December, I think, or maybe even January, it all completely fell apart. They were told they couldn't do it. Atushi Yokoyama, who owned the team, he called me or emailed me or something and said, look, this is not going to work. And then I was just distraught, as you can imagine, Trevor. But I told John, and I pushed and pushed and pushed at them, and then they eventually, I think it was a bit of the, Trevor, what do you call it whenever the Japanese sort of say they'll do something, they have to see it through, the honour thing of seeing it through. So then, he said that he would do it, and we got Jos Boone in Belgium to run the car, and Bob Hermans was the team manager. And so off we went for the first event in Mexico, and I don't know where we were, third or fourth or something like that, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, we're third in PWRC.
Third,
Mexico,
yeah. So it wasn't too bad a start, and then John said that he would help me then, and he gave me a substantial amount of money, but it was probably about a quarter of what Alistair had. Not. I was extremely grateful and eternally grateful to John for all that, because that's what happened. But because Sims had so much gear then from the two previous years with Toshi, I was sort of able to utilize that. And as the year went on, we were sort of racking up, and it was going okay, and then I was getting a few more pound together and all of that, and it was going okay. And then came to second last rally. I don't know, we had a difficult time in Argentina. I broke a ball joint in Argentina. I was very lucky to get it strapped and get out of the stage, and we dropped way down in that. But then before Australia, Ollie O'Donovan rang me. What was the last rally before Australia, Trevor?
Corsica.
So
yeah, you were second.
Second to Pons, and we caught him on the last stage. He'd broken his gearbox, and I thought we were going to actually get him. I thought he wasn't going to finish, but we did another good event, and then that was finished, and then we were we weren't leading, but we were in the hunt.
You're second in the points. You were behind Alistair, weren't you? Alistair was leading, I think, at that point.
Yes. And then the last round was Australia, and Ollie O'Donovan rang me and says, we're thinking about going to Australia to watch you do the rally. And I was like, Ollie, you might be, but I'll not be there. And he said, why not? And I said, look, this is the story. I'm about 25 grand and down in the hole for this, and then the rally's going to be another 25 or something, or 30 maybe even. And he was like, let me speak to a few of the boys and stuff. And then at that time, the Irish Tarmac Rally Drivers Association was going.
Yes. And
that's whenever he started to get all the boys together, and Ivan Fisher helped me. And as I say, there's so many people helped me, there was so many people who helped me. So they had to send the car, because they said, right, if you don't send the car and you don't drive over the start ramp, you're going to get banned for a year and a £30,000 fine. So they said they would send out one of the old cars. So they sent out an old gravel car that Toshi had used for 2 years. And then I rang them up and I said, look, I've got money together to pay the bill and to do the rally correctly and everything. And said, well, everything's been sent, but what we'll do is we'll build an engine and we'll fly it out. So they built a new engine, because the engine was just done in the car. And David Campion gave me a new gearbox. He gave me a lend of a new Hewland gearbox from ProDrive, because I was just literally trying to patch it together at the last minute, Trevor. And then the boys put the engine in the car, and it blew up within 1 kilometre, put a rod out of it. So that was it. So then they had to put the old engine back in, which was like about 4 rallies old. And the thing was, oh man, Trevor, you know what a Subaru's like when the engines aren't fresh in them. They are slow.
Yeah. And
that was it. I think we were down 10, 15 seconds a stage, and I was driving at the best I had been driving. And literally it was not in it, and just was not in it. And I thought, right.
So how did you get this high then?
Yeah, I think that was just fear. Actually, I can remember, right, Burnsy telling me it takes about 3 years to build up to that.
Yeah, and this is Bunnings or Sotico, as it was called. Yeah.
And I said that it takes about 3 years to build up to it, and I said, that's rubbish. And he goes, it does, what do you see? You'll arrive to it and you'll back out of it. And that was my second time down it, and I was like, I am not going into this, And this bit, you come over the first crest. It's actually, well, it's just a big, long
So for
crest.
those people who don't remember, just describe the piece of road then. It's probably easier.
Yeah, it's just the last kilometre of the Bunnings complex.
Yeah.
And comes really, really fast down to a square right. Then it goes sort of big, long crest, and you keep left over it, and then you go down into compression, and then that jump there is literally, it's dead straight, but you must keep to the right hand side of the road, and that lines you up for the second one, which is it's actually a little bit across the road, and then the car tends to pitch funny over it.
So everybody remember McShea and the Impreza going down there with Nicky Grist in 97, it would have been, or 98,
into the water splash, and then literally up through the finish.
Yeah.
But so we finished the rally. Sorry, right. So that was going on. Yanni Passanen crashed. Something else happened. I think it was maybe Karanjit Singh had crashed or something, or not. I don't know what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So Toshi had got a puncture. So Trevor, I knew at that point there was no way I was going to outdrive anybody. All I could do is not get a puncture and not crash.
Yeah.
And this sounds a bit like Space Cadet stuff, but somehow I knew that was going to go our way that weekend.
Yeah, you get a feeling.
I genuinely mean it, but the thing was so bloody slow, and we were not in the running, and I was never going to outdrive anybody in that car at that weekend. But I felt my driving was spot on, and we were, and we were on Michelin's, and everything was good. And then, so then we ended up, we were second behind Alistair, and then whatever, I can't remember the stage, Langton or some of them. There was a big long straight, and Alistair was in front of us, and he just pulled into the ruts, started off, and probably got up to about third or fourth gear, and the diff broke, and he was still on the straight, and he pulled over to the side, and he got out, and Michael Ord said that they've stopped, and I didn't I wasn't even looking, I was just making sure it was okay. And Alistair took the helmet off and threw it into the trees, and I thought, oh, and I could hardly get my leg on the clutch, And the thing, I mean, Trevor, this thing was going through like 1.5 litre oil a stage, and Karamura-san, the engineer, kept ringing, and he said, don't rev it and don't use the torque. So don't rev it and don't use the torque. So a bit like, do you remember when Carlos Sainz broke the
Corolla in 98? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They said, don't rev it hard. So he changed earlier, and that was using the torque, and it broke.
Yeah.
So anyway, we finished the rally, won it. That was great. I think Toshi actually overtook us because Tony Circum was pushing at me to try and
have a fight.
I was like, no worry, brother. Off you go. Win it for and we'll be happy. So that was it. So they stripped the engine at the end of the rally, and there was two conrods bent, and one was properly bent, Trevor. And Bob Hermans has it mounted on a bit of timber in his room. So we were very, very fortunate, But that weekend, Trevor, I'm telling you, it was going to happen. I don't know how I knew it was going to happen that weekend.
Right. So we're getting into the part of the story that I didn't know now. So clearly at any point when you've won the Production World Rally Championship 2004, you are the champion, and then you go off to celebrate. But it wasn't the case really, was it? Because things got a bit more exciting than that.
Yeah. So Mark de Jong was helping me. Mark worked for Trevor. I don't know who was the promoter at that time.
ISC.
ISC.
Which David Richards run, yeah.
Yeah, so Mark is a lovely guy, and he'd helped me an awful lot. And Mark said, you need to ring John Lloyd. And I says, I will. This was right at the end of the run. He says, I think you need to ring him right now, because there's some talk about that there might be some proper budget for a WRC car next year. And like, Trevor, that to me was like, right, forget about all this now. That's immediately gone. And we got back to, what did you call the big super special place?
Langley Park.
Langley Park. Mm-hmm. And everybody was gathering everything up, and I went over to see Malcolm, and I said, can I have a word with you? And he goes, oh, world champion, this is great, and well done and all that. And I was like, yeah, but I need a couple of minutes with you. I rang John, and John was just over the moon, so delighted, but obviously gutted for Alistair, because it was Jardine Lloyd Thompson were sponsoring Alistair, but totally delighted for me because of the Lloyd helicopters. And I said, John, Mark told me to ring you, and I was like, do you think, is there any possible way that we could do this thing that, but it's going to be £1 million, like, John, that, and John had already had that discussion with Mark, and I think, Trevor, I think it was 16 rounds in 2015, was it? Or sorry, in 2005, I think it was 16 rounds. Is that correct?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. It
So,
doesn't matter.
yeah, so
Not important.
yeah, so well, it was important from the point of view of money. So then it was
Yeah,
like,
of course.
if you can get all 16 rounds for £1 million, then I think we'll be able to do something. But you must get all the rallies. So I went straight over to Malcolm and he was not getting away from me. I was like, and he was like, "Oh, this is great." And I said, "Look, can we have a discussion about this? Because John has said that he can come up with £1 million, and I think we can. I know I can do a really great job, and I can, and I can, and I'll come over and I'll do whatever I need to do to make it the way it needs to be." So
just to be clear, it's £1 million to drive the 2005 Focus and 16 rounds of the World Rally Championship.
Yeah.
As a factory driver.
As a factory driver,
okay.
And it was Tony Gardemeister and what do you call the Czech guy?
Roman Cresta.
And yeah, and anyway, so Noreen and I stayed on for a few days after the rally, and Malcolm rang one night, and I was rang at 2 a.m. or something, and I immediately got into it with him once I woke myself up, and he was like, "Oh, I don't think it's going to work now." And I said, No, Malcolm, it is going to work. It's going to work. And this is how we're going to do it, and John's behind it, and this is, and you will not have anybody before me commit to this the way I'm going to do it. This is going to work. So you just need to trust me, and it'll be okay, and John will get the money, and Niall, it's not going to work. And he says, because it's at the end of the day, it's down to money and X, Y, and Z. And obviously Roman Cresta he did about 3 good stages in Monte Carlo and then parked the Octavia on the wall.
Yeah.
But he did have few good stages before that, and that's what put him under Malcolm's radar, and he had some budget, and basically the budget went to 1.25, and I couldn't raise it, and that was that, and utterly devastated, because you can imagine the 2005 car, how good that turned out to be. So then I'd said to John, "Look, John, if Sims, if they were willing to put money, the rest of the money in for the championship, could I drive a Subaru?" So I had some discussions with lots of people in pro driving. That was frustrating, but anyway, it was basically then it was going to be 1.65 million. It was slightly over 100 grand a rally. So that was going to be 1.6 million quid. So I went to Sims, then they said they wanted to do the Group N Championship again, and desperate to do it, and got a sponsor and all of these things. And I said, "Look, I have a much better idea. Take that money that you're going to do that Group N Championship with, put it into this program, and I've got £1 million, and you put in 600 grand, and we'll have the budget to run I don't know what it was an S10?
Probably would have been then, yeah.
Yeah, S10 was a good car.
S10, customer car would have been,
yeah. Yeah. And I said, "Look, can we do that?" And they eventually, sort of within a bit of pushing and pulling, and I went to Tokyo to see them. That happened. They said, "Right, we'll do that. All you need to do is get an agreement from Katsurado, who's the CEO of Subaru, STI."
Yeah.
And I went to see him before Monte Carlo, and he just said no. And Rita was there. I said, "Look, I need to have some serious time with this man." And he says, "Well, he won't really be coming up with the nuts and bolts of it." And I said, "No, all I need is a yes. I don't even need money from him. I don't need anything from him. Just a yes that these guys can do it." And then we're off. And John, obviously David Campion knew John extremely well and knew that side of it was all reliable. And I just needed to make sure that they would say yes. And I found that the team, Sims, was an extremely wealthy company in Tokyo. So, there was no issue there either.
Yeah.
And he said no. And just no. And I tried every angle I could, and it was no. And then they said, he basically got up and left me. So then I was went out, and I was utterly gutted. I was like, I don't understand this man's reasoning at all. And calmed myself and went away and came back and thought, right, I would think of a different strategy. And I went in, I saw him again, and he said no. And then he had a bit of a word with somebody, and Rita told me basically, "Niall, you need to go."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "But, Paul, all I need is give me a proper explanation of this, And I was by no means irate or anything, Trevor, but I was just trying
Yeah, of
every
course.
angle I possibly could, and
Yeah.
I did. And it was a no. And I tried again with him, and he
Yeah,
just
I
walked
know.
away from me.
Japanese loss of face. You need to be careful of that one. Definitely.
Yeah,
Having lived in Tokyo for 6 months, I've got a good indication of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, clearly you got something that was amazing. So no chance of a part program then. John wasn't interested in doing 7 rallies with a load of testing to prove yourself.
No, and at the end of the day, Trevor, I completely understood that, because at that point too, Colin was looking to go back, and the Citroen thing was that there was a whole load of things going on that they were also considering going to help Colin to do something, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but that money might have been required to do that, and then it got very late in the day, and but then Monte Carlo was over,
Yeah.
and the season had begun, and to be honest, Trevor, at that point, yeah, again in hindsight, I could have done the PWRC again, and I felt could have been successful for at least another 2 years in it, but for me that was done. I wanted to drive a WRC car, I wanted to be trying to fight with Loeb and Duval and those guys, I had no interest in driving a Group N car again. You get what I mean?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that was it.
It's a hell of a story though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Like, it is. Looking back, it was amazing times. Amazingly frustrating at times.
Yeah.
But,
So
great.
Cresta and Gardemeister got the 2005 Focus, which was a weapon as well.
Oh,
Here's something for you. 2003, I was hosting some VIPs for Subaru on some of the rallies that we weren't doing as part of Production Cup. And the guy who did most of it was Melvin Powell. Do you know Melvin?
No.
Anyway, Melvin had a history of that. But he had done some work with Cresta in a previous life as part of the Skoda setup. And he was good friends with Cresta. And he'd seen and heard him talk about getting an English-speaking co-driver. So there's a few emails back and forward with that. So that would have been the story then, wouldn't it?
Would have been. Like, Trevor, it is that thing. And like Roman Cresta is a lovely guy. Like, I've done business with him. He is a lovely guy. And he's a damn good driver. I just felt that I was better. Back then I felt like I was on the crest of a wave, and I'd learned so much, and I'd spent so much time. I've been in the car a lot with Tommy Mackinnon, and I'd learned so much at that point. Trevor, I felt I could have really utilised it and moved forward.
Okay, but that's how the cricket combos, and sometimes that definitely it's definitely a hell of a story. But moving on then, so there's a few bits and pieces over the next few years, but nothing too concrete until it all changed. You went to China.
Yeah,
China.
I keep forgetting that. So yeah, John McLean got me started out there, and so that was with Fakaka. They called the team Fakaka FCACA, and then the team
Proper
manager.
cowboy.
Yeah, proper. Oh, look at that cowboy beside me there, Trevor. Like
he's a bigger cowboy. You're right.
That cowboy there is like straight out of Texas, isn't he?
Yes, yeah.
So that's Rory Kennedy standing there, like looking very sheepish. Anyway, so. So Paul Gow was the manager of the Fakaka team, and then the Fakaka team owner got arrested for embezzling money or something, and then Paul went to work for 333 Racing, which was Skoda Red Bull. They had the Skoda Shanghai Red Bull team. So we did like 2 years in Octavias out there. So we did like one in a very standard Octavia, with a six-speed sequential box that would do. I think we had it at 140 something mile an hour on a stage. Like, the thing was a weapon for speed, but useless. And then it was heavily modified for the next year. And then the next year we got to use an S2000 Fabia, and that was probably the best year because the car was sort of unadulterated. They sort of tended to want to make bits to it and add things and take things off it.
Yeah.
So we had some really good years out there, and you can't win the championship, but you can win the maximum points for foreign drivers, for the team. Obviously, Alistair's there.
Mark Higgins, Stuart Loudon.
Myself and Rory there.
Myself and Rory, yeah.
Rory's tired. He's so much crack out there, and he really loved it. But he's an absolute rascal. So he is terrible. I had to really struggle to keep manners on him.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
imagine.
you can imagine. So this one is the young lad to my left is like he's the Taiwanese driver, and he was very good. He driven the in the FAW Golf that ProDrive built. Now
Yeah,
there's Paul. There's Paul. Just God rest him. That's him at the front of the car, in the sort of green shirtless shirt.
yeah.
So Paul got I don't know, we were at some round anyway, and Paul said, "Oh, I don't feel too well," and I was giving him Rennies, and then he wanted more of them, and I said, "Oh, you just got indigestion, you're fine." Like, and he says, "Yeah, they're making me feel better." So I went home on the Monday, and he rang me on Tuesday morning. He said, "I've got leukemia," and he died 1 year later.
Wow,
And he was a really good mate because he gave me all the opportunities I could possibly get in China, you know.
of course.
And yeah, so I miss that guy.
Sad times. Sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
so then they ended up they built these things. Oh my God! So these things, oh, Trevor, these things were. So Tomo came up to me one time and said,
So
"Don't you
Richard
cry."
Thompson.
Yeah, sorry. So
Yeah.
Tomo was out there with the FAW VW team with the Golf 7s that they
Which
built.
pro driver running, yeah.
Yeah. So he said, "Whatever you do, don't crash that car." And I knew exactly what he meant because these cars were totally homemade. So they were 2 liter. They were 2 liter 16 valve engine. I can't remember what size of a restrictor, but a huge restrictor. 6-speed box, and then they were effectively S2000 chassis underneath that. But Trevor, they were like the roll cages were horrendously put into them. Like on my worst day after a night out, I could have welded better than that. And I remember joking with Tom saying, "Look, oh, I'm not going to rely on the roll cage. I'll just, as long as the seatbelts stay." And he says, "Don't, because I've looked at those too, and they'll pull straight out." Like they were not well made. And yeah, you would have met. We had so many problems. Rory and I went to one event, and this is how horrendous it was. We went to leave the first day to go to the first stage, and a pulley fell off the engine within about 2 kilometers on the road section. So that was that day finished. And then the next day, we went to go to the first stage on the second day of the rally, and the car went on fire. So we didn't get to do a single stage on that car on that rally. So
Maybe
yeah,
a good thing. Maybe a good
you
thing.
know what? There's times, you know, Trevor. Yes, when something happens, my mum, God rest her, would have said, you know, you never know what you missed.
Yeah.
So I definitely would say that was maybe a good thing, because those cars at times, you know, you were trying to do your best, and the thing about it was they were fast enough, like you could compete with Mark, but you just didn't know whether the thing would turn at the end of the straight or stop. It would definitely go, or you know what might fall off it, like.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But again, a friendship that you picked up in China was to lead to other opportunities outside of motorsport as well. Well, motorsport linked, which
absolutely.
is what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So this is basically Han Han is a extremely famous author out there. If you Google him, Han Han, HAN. He's got like 60 million followers or something. Very lovely guy, really good driver. Has won the Chinese Touring Car Championship maybe 6 or 7 times with 333 Racing, who ran the Scotus, but they also ran the Volkswagen Touring Car team. And I met Han Han through that and did some tuition with them, like I did with lots of Chinese drivers, trying to help them better themselves and get results and stuff like that. So then he started to direct movies. So this basically it's a Toyota with a Subaru underneath. So it's basically a Subaru engine, gearbox, suspension, everything. And that's a Russian arm on the top. So the camera operator sat in the car with me and operated the camera. You could spin it round and round the car, you know, and get all these crazy angles.
Yeah.
And they had 12 cars and just myself out to drive the cars.
Wow, so that's a lot of seat time then.
Yeah. I had more than I'd ever had before. That was in 2018, and the name of the movie is Pegasus. And like it lifted $265 million, the equivalent of $265 million in 6 weeks out there.
Oh, that's brilliant that you invested in that as well, clearly at the start, and you got your cut of that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I got paid. I got very well paid, yes. But yeah, so it was great. Like we had we had Polos, DS3s, Fiestas. There's one of the Polo. If you look at there was two cameras and that one looking over the left rear wheel arch, and then the other one in the middle of the roof. So we got some really great angles, and being in China, the restrictions of, you couldn't do that on like a Mission Impossible movie or something like that, because the rigs, well, you could, but the rigs would be done differently, where it was sort of come up with something in the morning and the riggers would rig the car. We actually had one with some really great shots, and I think the camera must be nearly 4 meters higher than the roof of the car, and the car was hugely unstable with it, but the shots we got with it were amazing, So so I did 9 weeks out there. Then that's what I'm saying. 9 weeks out there, home for two weeks, Azerbaijan for 2 weeks, home for 2 weeks, back out to China for 2 weeks, and we finished the movie. And Han is just doing starting his new movie now, as it was Chinese New Year last weekend, and I was talking to him, and he's just starting his touring car movie now, starting to shoot that, so they'll have it ready for the spring break, So yeah, all these opportunities, Trevor, come up.
It's great.
Doing a bit of rallying,
Yeah.
Matt Blanc, yeah. That's him. He's looking really fat there, fatter than me.
So meeting Matt though got you introduced. So this is Matt LeBlanc from when he was in his Top Gear days, clearly. So ex-friends, so those people who clearly know him.
Yeah. So Matt's a lovely, lovely guy. Really good guy. A real man's man, and loves cars and bikes. Really, he's like top bloke. He's really good fun to be around. And we were at a particularly wet day at the track, and so Wade Eastwood, who is Tom Cruise's stunt coordinator, or he's like, if not the best, in the top two of stunt coordinators in the world. Wade was there at the track, and him and Matt had big history, so I got chatting Matt about it, and then I didn't realise that he knew Wade. So eventually I thought I would get to meet Wade that day, but it was just too busy at the track, and I had to stay at the track, and everybody went into the studio, so I missed out on that. And then I told Matt later on, and he says, I'll get him to give you a ring. So Wade Eastwood calls me the next day and says, we'll get you on the Mummy. I was like, right, okay. And then I went into this big try to sell myself, Trevor. I'm like, I've done this. And he goes, yeah, I don't know about that, but Matt says you're okay, so like, come along. And that was it over. So that was the Mummy. Then on Mission Impossible 6, I drove the prison truck on Mission Impossible 6, and some police cars and ND cars. And then on this one, I've done a lot of police cars and ND cars on 7, and some crashing and stuff like that. So
it all sounds very glamorous. I'm sure there's a lot of hanging about and sitting about in those movie things. So do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy it. So I did, I'm trying to think, Transformers with Michael Bay, and he's the director. And like, Trevor, that was literally every morning I wondered who was going to be taking my boots off. Would it be me? Because it was so fucking dangerous all the time. And that's just how it is with him.
Really?
Yeah. Always massive accidents. There's crashing and there's planned crashes, but there's accidents as well. So, but I really enjoyed it. Like, I tell you, I didn't need to drink any coffee in the day anyway. I was wide awake all the time, ready for anything. And that was the way it had to be. So that was one experience. And I'd done the Sweeney movie before that. And then started with Wade, and then I saw how Wade operates, and he's like very safe, very methodical, works his way through it. Nobody will be confused about what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. So that was a very different way. But there are times when you're sat around, but that's part of it too, But Wade has always such a great bunch of stunt people around him. You have, it's a pleasure. Like, myself and Terry Grant had so much fun on it, and there's the serious side of it, and then the moment the serious side's over, you can have fun. And you just need to be ready to be serious again, and that's it, and it goes on and on like that, and it's great, and it's cool to be involved in a movie. I was able to tell my kids, like, that's me with the big nose with the balaclava on me driving the truck. It's cool.
Yeah, and of course it's in perpetuity, so like these things, you imagine looking back to your great grandfather doing a show like this, and you're able to find out a bit, you know, so your great grandkids looking back and hearing you describe what you've done is just, you know, so that's a big buzz, I suppose, as well, when you think about it.
It is for sure, you know, it is. And then, you know, there's all these sorts of levels. Like somebody might be listening to this tonight, you know, Trevor, thinking, oh man, that's cool, you know, that's really cool. And it is. And then I get to listen to, you know, Tom Cruise and Wade Eastwood tell me what they've done. And then you're going, wow, right, you know.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of levels, isn't there? You know, and it's not, you know, I just feel extremely fortunate that I keep being able to bluff these people into giving me jobs.
I know, but it is, but you do definitely pinch yourself and things like this, you know. And I've been incredibly fortunate over the years that I'm not bothered about trophies. As you see, there's not that many behind me. There's the runners-up trophy for the British Championship, the co-drivers won. We won the manufacturer, so I suppose I'm a British champion. But if ever you need motivation, it's the first last prize that'll get you motivated to get the next one. So right. We got that first last prize in September 2000. As I say, a couple of weeks later, we were sat in that serviced office, and the following Easter with £1 million in the bank, and you don't need more motivation than that to get you going. And
no, that's it. And yeah, at the darkest times, you know, I remember David Senior saying about him being up in Lanark, you know, whenever, I don't know what had happened, Colin anyway, and I think he'd crashed the car again or something, you know, in the Sierra or something, and it was just before DR gave him a chance in the Legacy, you know, and it was like not looking good at that point, you know.
Yeah.
And then changes round and off you go. The rest is history, you know.
Mad. Right, a couple of things. We glanced past Rally Ireland because that was a big performance for you, 2009 on the Proton. Do you remember that first stage?
Yeah.
Actually, before we get into that, I might have a clip here if I can get it teed up. So I want you to tell me the story of that rally. So the conditions of the snow before 2009, and there's a bit of a decision to be made around tyres, and Fred Gallagher was over, he was helping out. I think Gordy Noble was clerk of the course, but Fred was there to help out with the experience he had. By the way, Fred Gallagher was on last week, and clearly with Ari Vatanen on, so Fred and Seb didn't really get telling that many stories. We'll definitely get Fred back again in due course, because we could do a night like this with Fred on his own and the stories that man has. But again, somebody who helped you massively in your career. The introduction to John Lloyd probably came through him as well, I'd have thought.
Yeah. Fred actually, Fred. I hadn't a clue about going to meet John and how I would go about it and everything. As I said, Jim Holder introduced me to him, but I asked Fred would he come along and try and, you know, just help me. And he did, and John basically sat and said, look, right, okay, so how much do you need to finish the year? And I said, well, it's an awful lot of money, you know, but, you know, I'm just trying to get started and see if we could patch it together and put this together and everything. And John was like, right, okay, but how much is that, you know? And then I started waffle and ramble again, and Fred just put his hand on my shoulder and said, tell John how much you need. And I said, 125,000. And John said, right, okay, I can do that. And I remember looking around at Fred going, he can do what? You can do what? What can he do? You know, and that was it. You know, I was just like committed to 125 grand there, and that's what paid for the rest of the year, you know. So, yeah, but Fred's a lovely guy. And again, one of those guys, he was helping me before I ever even met him, you know. So that, he's a lovely guy. And I had the pleasure.
Rally Ireland shakedown stage or pre-event test was one of those anyway, and there was a winter tire or a snow tire, and there was a wet and there was slicks clearly, and that was it. So there's a bit of a choice to be made, and the tire supplier, the FIA said there should be emergency snow tires, but only to be used if the clerk of the course decided that they could use them. So you were trying to bend someone's ear, weren't you, at that point?
Well, like the winter time, it was very, very wintry right up until just, you know, a day before it started a big thaw, and there was a lot of snow on some of the stages and ice. Mm-hmm. So it was looking like you might have needed a winter tire, you know. So they did have them, I think, supplied, but they were, like Trevor, they were horrendous. Like there would be a minute a stage or more than a minute a stage slower. Mm-hmm. So I was sort of getting into it with Fred, and he was saying, like, I think the discussion went something along like if we should be allowed to cut the slicks.
Yep.
And he's like, why do you want to cut them? And I said, well, it's dangerous. There's an awful lot of water on the road.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, well, you can use the winter tire. And I was like, no, but they're really, really slow. So, I don't know, Trevor, I was just trying,
That's exactly it. It's a driver thing. It's a driver thing with stewards on the clocks of the course.
He was laughing at me saying, so it's not about, I think it was along the lines of, Trevor, it's not about safety, it's about speed. And I was like, yeah, but we'll be safe if we can cut the tire and then we'll be okay. But anyway, Fred's a great guy.
So it wasn't about safety, it was about speed at the end of the day. And you're trying to pull the wool over Fred's eyes. He saw through it, so no doubt. But anyway, it didn't matter, did it? So this first stage, let's have a look at this then. So here we are, first stage of the rally in a Proton Satira. This is World Championship stuff we're talking about here, yeah? So, let's talk us through it then.
But
what do you remember?
There on the throttle, wasn't there?
I think I thought, yeah, was there something wrong with the car there?
So that car has four Bluetooth receivers on the corners. So if you imagine the driver's feet, the co-driver's feet in the back two corners, and the steering wheel is not connected to obviously it's mechanically connected, but it's not electrically connected to the car. So everything's Bluetooth from the steering wheel. So there's a bunch of stuff on the steering wheel, and yeah, we ended up with an issue that they got so much water into the car it stopped.
But not on this stage. This is the first stage of the rally. This is where you set a blistering time.
Yeah, I think we were third or something on it, but there's an awful lot of standing water, Trevor. But again, the chassis was really good. We picked the right tire. You could have picked the slick, or you could pick the other tire. I can't remember what you call it, the asymmetric tire, and we done that. But you can see in a few places I nearly been in, Trevor. But anyway, there's one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the times were up and down a bit, but on a particular stage, we the car cut out a few times, and then it stopped, and then it wouldn't restart and stuff like that. So. And eventually then I crashed it, so which is unfortunate, but fun weekend, it just didn't work out for us.
Yeah, so just so that we can see this then, just for those people watching, if I look at this. So this is the stage times. So you can see on the left-hand side there, you've got Jari-Mari Latvala, Umo Arva, and Niall McShea, third quickest in the first stage of the 2009 World Rally Championship. Look at the names behind you there as well. Yeah. That Sebastian Loeb boy is dead easy, isn't he? Easy to beat that chap.
Yeah.
See, you were right.
Mark in Corsica in 03.
Yeah.
Mark had a fastest stage time, and I think we were third in the same stage, because I think we actually got out of service on wets. I think we did. But I was cool.
Yeah. We had a good party after that rally, didn't we? You came to see us for a bit of a party. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember the state Martin was in. You were fine.
And wee Gibby came as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
Michael Gibson came in a jack shell. It's good fun.
Good.
Right. What else have I got for you? Yeah, talking of celebrations, of course, you win the World Championship, and then you go to the FIA prize giving, and this is just amazing. I remember going, of course, when we did it in 2003, Pettard won the driver's title, so Subaru clearly. And so it was the first time a Subaru ever won the Production World Rally Championship as well.
Yeah.
And so it was a big old thing, and we stayed in the Columbus, David Coulthard's hotel, and all the pro driver there, and Pettard arrived in his national costume, which was hilarious, and Pernilla. And so that was it. A few drinks from Nick Fry, DR, all that lot, and off we go to down to the Grimaldi Forum for the FIA Awards. And I could sit here and tell you stories for about half an hour around that. Yeah. Some of the funniest stories you can think of. Like my wife at the time, the girlfriends, it was Martin, me, and the girlfriends at the time. My wife never went to rally. She went to Rally GB in 2001, the first and only time she went to a rally. And she used to say to me, I don't drag you to work to look at my computer. Why would you drag me to your work? I thought, that's fair enough. Yeah. So first long haul rally you go to, and you come home from Australia, she says, where's the present? I said, well, before I went, on the night that you come home from your work, did you bring me a present home from work? So anyway, so we go to the Grimaldi Forum with a few beers in the Columbus before we went. I needed the toilet, so oppositioner said, just don't talk to anybody. Just stand there. If anybody talks, you don't talk to them. So off I go to the toilet, come back, and Martin and I was with her, come back, and she's talking to this guy. Oh, God, what's she talking about? Please don't have said anything. So chatting away to him, I join in. Hello, how are you? Yeah, nice. It was Damon Hill. And
Couldn't speak to him.
so anyway, Martin arrives, and Martin, again, we're going off in time, but Martin, before he came, he was out running, and he was going through some gap in the hedge, and he didn't dip low enough, and he scored his head up here. He's like Gorbachev going to the award. So this is, if you see the photographs, you'll see it. And at the time, of course, Richard had he had passed out behind the wheel on the way to Rally GB, and I think there was a bit of confusion with Damon Hill, thinking that Martin, who looked a bit like Richard, was actually Richard, and he was at anyway. But we got there, Damon it off, and I said to Jax, I said, what were you talking to him about before I come back? He says, his hair. He's got lovely hair. At that stage, he had long hair. So she was talking to Damon Hill about how lovely his hair was, thankfully, before we did. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And then you go and you stood beside Michael Schumacher, who was a hero of mine. You know, the guy's ability was incredible. You're having a conversation with him. And I'm never into photographs and what people call selfies. And now, the one regret I probably have from that night is not having a photograph of Michael Schumacher, Martin, and I. We were stood together, and it would just have been lovely to have that photograph. Yeah. And then, of course, when that finishes, then everybody's going off to Jimmy's nightclub. Yeah. And Jimmy's nightclub, for those who don't know, when Coulthard won the Grand Prix for the first time, a few bottles of champagne in Jimmy's, and he said, right, I'll have the bill now. He brought the bill out, and I think it was something like 30,000 euros. And Coulthard, being a resident, of course, being there, he said, yeah, so I'm not a tourist, I'll live here. So there's a story about that anyway. So we decided we wouldn't go to Jimmy's, would park that one, and we'd head for Stars and Bars. So me and Skid and the two girlfriends, Stars and Bars, €7 a pint. So we're there with the DJs on, having €7 a pint. We didn't even go back to the Columbus Hotel where the Pro Drive party was, and we just had the best crack, recalling all the stories of the year, and the girls were comfortable, but that was it. Your story is probably a little bit different to that, because you would have went to the same thing. You would have went to the Grimaldi Forum for...
Yeah. Same thing, Trevor. Grimaldi Forum. I think 2 beers, 2 vodkas and 2 mixers were like €140 or something. So that was like, right, well, we would not be doing that then.
Yeah.
And that was fine. But Daniel Elena worked in Jimmy's nightclub.
Oh, so he would have, yeah, because he's a Monask.
Yeah. So he said, right, we're going to Jimmy's, and we're going to leave here and head to Jimmy's, and that was fine. But there was a lot of drinks going around anyway, and that was fine. But got ourselves to Jimmy's, and he said that we were going to this VIP area, and this is like in where everybody is, like you said, Schumacher, everybody, Mika Hakkinen, everybody is there, and he's booked a table. So the guy goes up and removes the table's waiter removes the velvet rope, and we all go in, and there was 10 of us there. So there's Seb and his missus, me and Noreen, Daniel and his missus, PG Anderson, and Petter and Pernilla. And that's grand. So
Michael Orr with you?
No, Michael didn't make it. I don't know why maybe he went to Stars and Bars. I don't know. So anyway, the round of drink was 10 tins of Red Bull and a bottle of vodka. And that was nice. Grand. And
good skills.
It was going, and going, and that was grand, and the net was flying, and it was great. So I said to Peter, I said, right, I want to see this disco dancing bullshit that you're supposed to be good at, like. And he was, yeah, in a minute. And I said, let's do it now, because you end up too pissed, and then you won't be able to do it. So let's do it now, let's do it right now. And he's like, right, okay, we'll do it. I said, right now, so up, and as soon as he got up, the waiter opened the velvet rope, and then I said, can you have another round of drinks, please? Can we have another round of drinks? And Peter said, no, I'll get it. And I was like, no, it's fine, I'll get it. And Billy Big Balls here, so I'm like, I'll get it. And he's like, no, I'll get it. But at that time we were both walking down to the dance floor, and everybody cleared the dance floor, you know, and I mean it like there was like one of those, you know, movies where
Dirty
people,
Dancing.
yeah. So they, like everybody backed themselves up against the wall and Peter started to dance and he was fucking amazing. Like he was so cool and had the right music on and everything. And he did like two or three songs and he was class at it, really great. And everybody was cheering. It was a great laugh. So he comes straight back up again. And that was grand. And I was like, that was so cool. So I got the barman as he opened the rope, handed me the bill. And the bill was €900. And I hadn't freaking got €900, Trevor, not on a credit card or on my debit card. And I was like, oh fuck. And I was like, ah. And Peter just snapped it out of my hand and said, I'll get it, and just walked on, you know. So, you know, saved me from a very embarrassing moment. So he did.
Yeah.
So, but that's him. He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, funny though, funny. Oh man, hey, it was funny. And Schumacher was going around, and his party piece was to put his hand in your back pocket and just rip your trousers open. So there's a few people walking around with acid in their trousers.
Yeah, I heard about that before. Yeah.
But fun times, you know, fun times. And they're different for me, Trevor. You know, it was a glimpse into the life of the people that lived that life. You know.
Yeah. Mad things. Yeah. Look at where you are now. Eh? Right, let's go back into these comments. So we're only 2 hours 50 minutes in now.
That's nuts. Hey, I don't know where's that went. People will be turning off and be asleep.
I know. Right, let's breeze through a few of these then. Who have we got? David McSorley, have we done this one? Yeah, we just talked about that actually. Well done. We're on point. Evening lads, great show as always. Keep up the good work. We will try to. Now, you ever do a national championship in WRC or R5 from Jerry? You'd do any rally, wouldn't you?
Jerry, if you've got one.
Great show. Tom Stafford Gully, massive change needed for rallying to continue. Yeah, I've got a plan to sort of discuss that. As I said, WRC out of everybody's league, 3 WRC. Yeah, it doesn't look good. That's if there is 3. It only potentially could be 1 as well. Looking well. Shine off you like a new school bag. Nice, Dominic. Well, Niall. These Niles are busy. Lovely. Niall says all our drives support him to start. Yeah, huge amount of support. Just talk about that as we go through these, and I'll just scroll through them again. Go on, keep talking. This is where you get to talk now, or I try and find my space here.
Trying to think of Sean's question there, you know. So I do ball and tempo and in a Yaris WRC car.
Not asking for much, like, are you?
No, but like if you're going to ask for something, go big or go home.
Hi Neville in Australia, yeah. Sound fella apparently. Hi Eamon. What's this one? Who's a co-driver in major pain due to heat of that was.
Oh yeah.
Nicky was in trouble there, wasn't he? Nicky Christ.
No. So.
Oh, sorry. This is a different thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Elliot Edmondson came with
Elliot.
me, and the guys had changed the car from an S2000 engine to a 1.6 turbo, and in typical fashion, they'd done a great job doing that, but they'd made the exhaust too short. So on the stage, the exhaust pulled off, and it pulled off right up at sort of the bulkhead. So we ended up, the 2 of us got bad carbon monoxide poisoning, but like Elliot is literally half the size of me, and he had it bad. He had the proper cramped up hands, and his lips went blue, and I couldn't really talk right. So Mark and Darren came around, and we'd got out of the car, but then whenever I got out of the car, Trevor, I did not know what was going on, and I thought I'd crashed the car on the stage, and yeah. Mark was walking me around, and I was like delirious. But Elliot, God bless him, was even worse. Like he was really scared because he didn't know whether he was going to come around again, you know.
Dangerous stuff, like especially cars going on fire as well with the crap that's in them. The fumes that come off that ain't good.
Yeah. But Mark actually, Mark just got me. He stayed with me until we sort of got ourselves sorted out, and then it was like it took Probably took Elliot maybe 3 hours before he was okay again. I was all right probably within an hour, but that was us out of the rally that day. Yeah. Bad day.
Still dangerous. You're still coping with danger, aren't you?
Yeah.
So Tommy Hayes saying, "Is David Lapworth forgiven you since?" This is a story you're going to have to go now on the Sprint podcast and listen to that. So this is about ProDrive looking the next big thing, and I'll leave that for Tommy, and I'll hopefully get a few of you over to the Sprint podcast to hear that story, because we just don't have time. Philomena in Norfolk really, and Durham, loving the show. Thanks, Sist. Angus, hey, good. Angus is watching.
Yeah.
Barry McGuigan started out in the Metro Challenge, I think. Good man.
I think he did. On the racetrack and the racing.
He did.
I think he rolled it. And,
he did.
He rolled everything. He rolled in
grand.
He rolled freaking metros. I don't know. He's God love him.
Yeah. Better with the fisties up. Who's around? Is yours McLean? Niall's memory and jumping to Subaru Ken Block. What do you think of Ken Block performance in Donegal?
Yeah, it was.
Thanks, James.
Yeah. So Ken's grandfather, there's some connection to Ken's grandfather in Donegal. He told me before that he wanted to always come over this way, and he'd been over here with Chris a few times, or at least once anyway. So he always wanted to do Donegal, and Derek Dauncey that works for Ken had been there many times, with the WRC teams and Mitsubishi and stuff. So he wanted to come over. He wanted to do the rally. He did a test. He probably just needs more experience. Like, Irish roads are not easy, Trevor, as you know. If you're used to them, you would think nothing of it. But if you haven't done anything like that before, it's a bit like rallying in Malaysia. If you haven't done anything like that before, or rallied in a desert before, you could be a great driver, but in those particular circumstances, they can be very, very difficult. And I think he was very disappointed with what happened, but I'm sure he said he would be back, and hopefully he will.
I just hate people knocking Ken Block. Ken Block is an exceptional driver, first of all. Watch his in-car in the Rally Legends last year, for example. Yeah. If you finish in the top 10, in the top 7 or 8 of a World Championship rally, you're going some, aren't you?
Yeah.
He never ever claimed to be the best in the world.
No, and he doesn't, exactly. No. Like you said, he doesn't. He's very competitive,
And just an amazing man, if you think of his story and everything he's done in life, not just, spinning the wheel and pressing the pedals we talk about, but you go to a Goodwood Festival of Speed and every superstar is there, the biggest cues for Ken Block.
Yeah.
Just a legend when it comes to the internet.
And he embraces it all, Trevor, as well. The good days and the bad days when he rolls the car. If you're, I've been to his place in Utah, and he's all the crashed stuff there as well, and he says, that's part of the journey, and I like the way he embraces it all, he is right, and most people are ashamed of accidents, and I'm probably ashamed of a few myself, but I don't know, I like the way he's open and he's good crack,
Yeah, Mike Brown. Nice bit of a plug for Mike Brown Developments. So this is Mike and Liam, of course, sat beside him. Do you know?
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, so I'm just trying to. I haven't got reading glasses yet, Trevor. But
I'll read it to you. So,
in
fairness, you're on your phone, so it is quite small. Great to see Niall tonight. If it wasn't for him beating me in the micros, I wouldn't have had the pleasure of meeting Trevor in the Set Super 6 Championship the following year, which he went on to win and beat Stevie Whitford and Mark Fisher. He was quick and he was also reliable, and he got the car to the end. A superstar, and of course he got a season in the Set kit car, in the Ibiza kit car as well, the F2 car. Yeah, exactly. So Liam Clogger is his co-driver, and when I went to live over in Deddington outside Banbury, one of the first Sundays I was there, Liam invited us all around to his to go out on bicycles. So Liam at the time, certainly just before that, he was working with Tony Jardine, and they had the deal to do the PR for the British Rally Championship. And of course, then everybody's connected. So that day, David Lapworth turns up, Angus is there, I was there, Colin McMaster, Burnsy, and on and on and on. And it was just this fantastic Sunday. I had no bicycle, so I had to borrow one. End up, Burnsy was selling his, so literally the following Tuesday, I went round And Colin McMaster and him were sharing a house, and bought the bike off me, the Lotus bike, at 300 quid, and took that home. And that was the start of a relationship I had with Burnsy and Colin and all those guys. And Burnsy's, as he did with you and Lappy and all those guys, took me under their wing. And like you did, I pestered them. Quite a funny story. A Sporta opened a gym in Oxford, and me being me, asking the question, went along and said, I'm this professional co-driver. It would be great. You know, I could do a bit of marketing if you want. And if 6 months membership of the gym would be all about looking, you know, we can do a deal. Managed to get the deal. Of course, Burnsy turns up at the same gym. We used to go every morning. He had to pay for it. He was not happy. Just these small things. Vodafone, he chased Vodafone to get a sponsorship so he could get a free phone. It's so funny. He was never happy with that. Like, anyway. Sheila's watching from Edinburgh. Great show as always. 2007, the Aikman Mark II Escort to Marshall.
Rubbish.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, the engine fell out of it or something. I can't remember.
We've talked about that one. The Weave Meisters in the house.
Oh dear, this will be bad.
No, he's just saying your Finnish accent wasn't great. And,
He does.
It was the one that
Better
I commented. Yeah, and especially you had Kanken and being grumpy. That will never happen. A lot of talk about the Roger Albert Clark. Any word you do in the rally? Oh, yeah, Marty McCormick. I know Barney watches as well.
Marty, a wee birdie told me you've got a spare BDA, so maybe.
There you go. Get the deal done. You heard it here first. Who's the best driver you compete against apart from Lube?
You, Johnny.
Johnny's the boy. Is Johnny quick?
Johnny's good, yeah. He was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Him and Noreen crashed a few times, you know, but it was probably Noreen's fault. But,
Careful now. Noreen's watching. You've been in trouble again.
Actually, who would have been? I don't know. But sure, like Trevor, there's, you know, so look at all those drivers. You know, there's loads of drivers. Duval was really good too. You know, he just wouldn't put the work in.
Yeah, you need to listen to the podcast. If anybody, if there's one podcast everybody needs to listen to talking about Duval, it's Stefan Prevost and the Absolute Rally. It's just one of those legendary episodes. You need to search for it, but that's quite an interesting one. Stefan Prevost, sorry, I was getting on a bit. We're 3 hours in. This is mad. Never done this before. Always great to see you in Sligo. Thanks, Parag. What was going through your head? We talked about that one. Thanks, Bran. Thumbs up. Thumbs up, Sean McCardle. Good to see you here. Stevie Dunlop. Bunnings is a mega stage. He was our engineer in 2003. Stevie, Northern Ireland man as well. Oh God, I've scrolled past loads of these. I want to get them all done. Just bear with me, folks. We'll do it in 5 minutes. Oh, geez, that yourself, young McShea. I've never seen you looking so well. Some Brenton Trainer.
I can't help it.
I know, yeah. For the homecoming now. Oh, yeah, that was in, where was that? In
Enniskillen, the Lakeland Forum.
The Forum, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really Terence Donnelly and Kieran McAnallen. Put it on with a bunch of people in Enniskillen Motor Club, and it was great. It was very touching, you know, that they went to such a big effort to help me, you know. Anybody go there and then to come home to the thing that they'd organised was amazing.
Anybody could win that other thing. Some stories, determination for you. Unfortunately, money outweighed raw talent. Niall just had buckets of talent. Yeah, buckets of something. Malachi, brilliant insight into your rally career, Niall. Best show to date, boys. Okay, there you go. Looking well now. Glad to see you're driving well. You're bloody quick on the micro. Mike Daw. Robert Ewing says, watching with you. Mark Alcon. Great interv. I see that's down to the kids speak there. There we go. He pressed return too quick. Fantastic night again, Trav. Great stories by what about the set in Lurgan Park?
Yeah, cheers, Sean. That was fun. I dropped the ball. I stalled the engine on it on one of the stages, and Willie McKee was with me, and Sean very kindly gave me the car to do it, and I really, really enjoyed it. But I stalled it and totally spoiled the day. I think we could have been maybe third or something, but it was a fun day driving that car, you know.
Cool. Good to hear you're watching, Sean. By Crash YouTube Books can chat. Okay, we'll go through a few stories. Ivan Kennedy. Hi, Ivan. Hope all's well. Great show, lads. Yeah. WRC in their own. Yeah. We could talk about this again, but we definitely want a WRC rally in Northern Ireland. Who wouldn't?
Bobby, I'm sure will get it sorted.
Bobby to sort it. Bobby can work things. Great stories by Niall, super driver. Great show, guys. Big fans. Thanks, Gerard. Joined halfway through after an hour live. Yeah, get it on the big telly tomorrow night. Watch the whole lot and watch it again because the stories are that good. Really enjoying it, Jerry. Thank you. Had a faint of Niall handed me a bill 900. Yeah, yeah, he probably did, but wasn't to do with the bill. Great interview, Lila. Great show as always. Loving the story. You need to get your mate TC to watch this then, and then we can maybe talk him into coming. Fantastic show tonight. Rory McGarry, great show. Okay. Yeah, sad to hear about that, Tony. We know about that. What else we got? Great show as always. For not getting paid to crash to getting paid to crash. Some stories. Yeah. These shows are always getting better by the way. Great work, Trevor. Well done. Yeah, I told Higgy that. So the last year I did the championship was with Higgy, Mark Higgins, and and Mark. I just sort of got to the point. You do have a couple of accidents, Mark. You know, he's just prone. He's just accident prone in general. The last person who needs to be a bloody stuntman is Mark Higgins. Trust me.
Knocking himself out with boot blades and funny.
And not even go to the Rantasippi and what he was doing to the television to get thrown across the room and all of that. And in Finland, you know that story, but we can't tell that one. But to be Daniel Craig, James Bond stunt double for 4 movies in a row now. Jesus, how's that man ever survived?
It's funny. He was a really good one, Mark, or when he did. So he tells this one, Trevor, that he was desperately in need of the toilet and he had to run up through the trees and that was fine and he did what he had to do. And he
this on a movie, yeah?
No, in a rally.
Right, yeah.
And I always give him terrible about it. So anyway, he puts the suit on and everything, puts the balaclava on and he's like,
I know where this is going.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you don't need to finish it. We know what happened there. Yeah.
Very, very funny. That's Mark. He's lovely, but he does have accidents.
Yeah, a micro challenge reunion. Yeah, accidents everywhere. Cheers, Simon. Bush Bar and Homecoming. Very enjoyable show. Thanks. I don't know how many of these guys. Are we nearly there? I think we're nearly there now. Thanks for all these well wishes.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Niall, you were meant to drive my Corolla in St Angelo Airport, but no MOT meant we couldn't start. Maybe another day from Declan McBreary. What about the crack of the May Bay rallies at the airport in St Angelo? Okay. Get the Higgy brothers on, Trev. That'll be great. Jesus. Yeah, there's just so many. Thanks, Chris. I have to stop there, otherwise we'll keep going. What do you think? Did you think it was going to be 3 hours? Did you think 3 hours was going in?
How are you going to get 2 hours out of me, Trevor? So that's like, I hope I haven't put anybody to sleep. Like.
Well, not according to those comments anyway. And if those people like it, then that's fine. And people can take it a little bit by little bit. They can watch the recording. Remember, if you are watching this recording, it's on live every Friday night. As I said to you, I need about 20 Friday nights in a month to get through everybody that I'd like to do, let alone all the ones that you suggest. As always, I am listening all the time, even though I'm maybe preoccupied with pressing buttons and looking at second screens and things like that. Niall, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks for telling your stories. All the best with everything you do. It's just been an amazing journey, and there's still loads more to come, isn't there?
Cheers. Thanks, Trevor. No, it's been great. And thank you to everybody for all the well-wishing and the good comments. Thank you. Excellent.
So this time next week, who knows what the surprise will be then. Thanks, folks. Take care.